Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Feels like Tuesday because we didn't have a show on Monday, but it's not. It's Wednesday. Happy to have you here. Happy to be here. Thanks everybody for being here. As you roll in, those of you as you're rolling in, if you could hit that like button, if you could hit that share button, that helps a ton. After yesterday's live, we had some angry MAGA, and they went ahead and reported every single video that I've ever made. And so we may need a little help getting traction today on the For You page, as I won all of the appeals. However, sometimes the effects of those videos after they've been blocked drops you in the algorithm. So if you could help us out on that, that would be terrific. Good morning to everybody. God, Dave, look at the gifts already. I appreciate it. Thank you. It's wonderful to have you guys here with us today. We have Felice put in some serious work last night on this outline, so I'm excited about that. I was up all night putting together a child's bed and blowing up balloons that kept popping, like the worst balloons that have ever been made, that just kept popping in my face. And they were like, not when they were all the way expanded. They were like just normal, and then they would explode in my face. So I had a wonderful evening last night, having balloons blow up in my face. But it's my daughter's birthday today. She chose breakfast. She had her cake, and I think it's like I only have one kid, and I've decided to just let her do all the things that I wasn't allowed to do. So she had cake for breakfast. That's what she did this morning. Thanks, Amber. I'll let her know. Morning, Fax. How you doing? And while we wait for Felice, I'll talk to you guys. Thank you for the cowboy hat. I got a message this morning. I wish I could remember who it was from now. I'm sorry. That David had finally spilled the beans on a live in front of 40 people last night that he had talked to Harrison Floyd. He also messaged me that. So, just so you guys know, David is riding high on the fact that he got in contact with Harrison Floyd and he believes he's going to save Trump's presidency. By the way, I checked, and it turns out Harrison Floyd still no change. So after finding out that information, nothing has changed with him, and Trump's charges, I just checked, are still intact. He will still be charged with crimes. He says here.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Ooh, love today. We're showing love
Yeah,
today.
so much love. Have you checked
Did
the
you fi-
Discord?
Did I?
Just look
No.
at it real quick. I was posting. I was working in the Discord a second ago.
We're Donald ducking today. Was I not supposed to say that?
Don't mind me. I'm just Donald Trump's word cloud.
You He's so proud of his
Nothing
word
to see
cloud.
here.
He's
Nothing
so
weird going
proud.
on Truth Social in the last 24 hours. I've literally been on Truth Social for 24 hours. Like, if the only place you hang out is Truth Social, I understand why the far right is crazy. I feel insane right now.
That okay, that's I was gonna message you that, and then my ADD took over, and but
Cool
I'm
train.
on Twitter
Sorry.
today, and it's like we've gone just full on we've gone full on fucking crazy. I was on a live last night. David was DMing me
During the
about
live
no, just in general DMing
about you
me.
blocking him.
Yeah, because then I was like, David, did you really go and report all my videos? He's like, no, I didn't. I think it may have been Guerrilla Radio. It may have
Wait,
been.
I don't even know what's happening. We haven't spoken. I was in my own world
Oh,
last night. I was on Truth Social for 20. What are you talking? Your
I didn't
videos
even.
were reported?
Yeah, I
I
didn't
don't
even.
we
It's
haven't
like I had a new strike, and I'm like, how did I get a strike? What did I do? And then it's like, and then it was just strike after strike after strike. So I had like 15 strikes yesterday. I had 15 videos that were taken down yesterday, and I appealed, and I won every.
What?
Yeah, I literally won every single appeal. Within like 5 minutes of me realizing what had happened. But this was like maybe 10 minutes after our live had ended. So somebody was in the live and then just went and started reporting all my videos. But I don't get it. Like a lot of these videos have been taken down before. Like I win every
So I
time.
know why can you re-report
Right?
videos? Like
Yeah,
did it
that's
ever?
silly.
Yeah,
TikTok.
I
That's very
agree.
silly. But I went into enemy territory last night and had the absolute time of my life. I
Who
went
were you?
into
Which live?
I went into MOD's live, which is my new favorite place to hang
I
out.
was gonna say it's like your hangout.
It's 7v1. Uh but usually
That's like
I'm
your jam.
yeah, I'm elevated at that point. But do you remember Josh? He was the border patrol agent from Minnesota.
Yes.
He
Oh
was
my
there.
gosh, he was angry. He's
He does not like
oh yeah, he
me.
was so angry. That he's the one I was like, why are you so terrified, sir?
Yeah. He would
Like you're
we
terrified.
it was 7-on-1, except for it was 7-on-1 and then like 7-on-1 against Josh too. Like he would just in the middle of anybody talking, he would just start reading some shit off of Wikipedia. Like he would interrupt his own people and nobody nobody knew what he was talking about. So by the end every time he would start talking, everybody else would just start laughing and it was a beautiful moment. I do fear though that Josh is going to snap someday. I'm
So what are you doing there? I've never seen. I know you go into those lives. I've never watched.
Usually I get invited. So I was scrolling through and I don't usually request. I wanted to hear what their arguments were. There's a couple people in that live that um, I think that their takes are fucking stupid, but they spend time researching their takes and they actually have like reason for why they believe certain things. And like, so that
Like, give
group,
me an example of what
okay,
you
so
mean
this
by
group
that.
particularly, like when we're talking about the Colorado, the Colorado ruling, they think that the Colorado ruling is unfair because in the Constitution it does not in section or what was it, the 14th Amendment, Section
14
three,
3.
right? It doesn't specifically list president as somebody who can engage in insurrection, so they're like, well, he can't, which is
Oh,
dumb
you
because
mean the lowest of the low hanging fruit argument? That
yeah, but
makes
that's
no
better
sense.
than
Yeah.
like David. That's better than most of the people that argue
Well,
with
that
us.
is one of David's arguments. I think the best due process argument you can make if you want to sound like sane is, I mean, or you can make a due process argument. I mean, you could, the most coherent ones I've heard, like there's, if they were smart, they would read the dissenting opinions from the Supreme Court and
Well,
use one of
see,
those.
that's what
Like,
they did. The
what are
funny
the due
part was
process arguments?
is they're like, look, here's the rules. Read this. This is from a judge. The judge said this. I'm like, yeah, that's the judge that lost. You guys get that, right? This is how this works. That the majority decision is the decision, and the dissenting opinion is just explaining like what they disagreed with. Like that, you understand that, right? I'm like every single time you guys are bringing up this dissenting opinion, like that proves something. It didn't prove anything. It proved that that opinion was not accepted by the majority. But so they know stuff. They'll know stuff like that. Um, but they also it's crazy to me. Like Mod is a lawyer. I know a bunch of people have messaged me and said Mod is not a lawyer. Uh, I'm not gonna go down that. Let's see. Taryn Fraser, if you're opposition, let us know. Um, but they make some of the craziest, just the craziest arguments. Like they think January 6th was just a hoax, right? Like it was just, again, make it make sense. Why did the Democrats stage an insurrection for an election that they won, and stage that insurrection during the process that finalized their victory? And they're like, hey, just we need to fuck this up. We've got to go in and we have to ruin our own victory by staging an insurrection, and we're willing to risk our entire reputations and our ability to run for office again on this. We're gonna fake stage an insurrection that we won, or for an election we won, because we're scared of Trump. That was
Jen
the
told me to ask you about the Declaration of Independence
no,
argument.
oh, that was Josh. Yeah, yeah, that's my favorite. Josh
The,
said,
the man protecting the northern border is as I refer to him.
Josh said, Josh said, it's the law. Have you read the Declaration of Independence? And I said, I have,
Oh
but
no, Josh.
unfortunately, the Declaration of Independence is not the law. And I know, and he said, it's constitutional. I said, the reason I know it's not constitutional is because I understand calendars. And if the Declaration of Independence was written before the Constitution, it is therefore not law. And he said it is law. It's been cited in Supreme Court decisions. And he doesn't understand how like Supreme Court decisions work and how you might sometimes have to kind of guess or infer what the founding fathers were thinking. So you might cite
Yeah, it's
something like the
they're
Federalist
interpreting
Papers.
something. Yeah,
Correct.
it's interpreting using context. Yeah.
Yeah. So eventually it shut down to eventually what happened is when Josh would say something, I would just thank him for the information and move on. And he was very frustrated with that. So anyways, I'll probably be there again later today. I love that live. The amount of people who are disappointed in me for loving going in that live is high though. Jake specifically not impressed. He's like, you have, but he said you have, I think he might have called it a kink. Might have called it a kink.
I think it's good for you. I think it's good for our relationship too, that we have time apart and you go scream at people. I think it's all very healthy.
I think it's probably true.
I know,
It
it's
is.
sad.
Well, it's hard, like you're putting this together, and I felt what you felt. There's a level of crazy with MAGA right now that I've never seen before. Like the stuff that they're saying, like it's so far removed from anything that could be considered reality. It blows my mind, and I'm seeing my friends like repost this shit. Gunther Eagleman, I will say it every single day, a lunatic, 500,000 followers on Twitter. He's an absolute psychopath. Today he
I
put
don't
up a
follow him. I
video.
need to follow him.
Yeah, he put up a video today saying the election of like Arizona was stolen, Trump and Kerry Lake won. And the
God.
video he posted is from 2022. He's like, look at them. Look at these election workers going
His
in.
name is trademarked.
Yeah. If
Cool.
you can see this video.
Cool.
Look at the date on the corner. The video, it should be his pinned tweet. But he says the election was stolen, and that Arizona election workers were going in and they were swapping out the hard drives. And then if you go in the comments, by the way, if any of you guys hear this, you can go in the comments. You can see like what they're using. There's these, what do you call it when you have like a log from the computer log of every action that happened? What's that called? Let's call it a log.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a log of like everything
Activity
that's
report
happened.
or whatever. Yeah.
And there's a thing, system was expecting 10.34, but it was 10.35. An audit log, thank you. An audit log. And it's literally just showing that they have done software updates. That's all it shows. It shows that there previously had been a different operating system, and now there is a new update to the operating system. And they're like, see, that proves the election was stolen. But again, this video is posted or dated 2022. So I just want to know why the fuck I don't know about time travel and why the Republicans have the ability to time travel and go back from 2022 to 2020, but somehow have the
This
dates
is the
still
week
say
when
2022.
people do that. Like this is this week. It's the week between Christmas and New Year's. I'm telling you, people just post things from past years. Like you have to check what everyone's posting because people will just be like, "Oh, remember when this happened?" Or they won't say it, and it will just be something for 2 years ago. That's like I have that experience.
Do you
Like
think
all
it's
week
maybe
on
just because like all the
Twitter.
sane people take a vacation during Christmas, so that the voices because I'm seeing so much.
I mean, it is part. I don't know if it's all the same people, but yeah, people are vacationing, and it's a lot of like regurgitated content, or like, do you remember when, or like this time 2 years ago? Like, yeah,
Yeah, but in this case, here's the evidence that the election was stolen in 2020, and I'm showing you a video from 2022
yeah.
that proves it. By the way, all the video is showing election workers unsealing the machines that have been sealed since 2020, unsealing them, doing software updates, and preparing for the 2022 election. That's all the video shows. And that's the thing with Republicans right now. Is there everything about their cases are so thin because Donald Trump isn't offering any real defense to any of his charges. He's just claiming that Joe Biden is bad. So anything, it doesn't matter what it is, any video, any document, they will just take and run with it because it's all they have right now. And it is a little bit scary to me that this many people are this stupid. That's what's scary to me. It's you know what I mean? Like
Oh
that.
yeah, hello. I've been on True Social for 24 hours of what is happening. And like the way it's like just it like Trump's posts are received is what scares me. People are like, makes perfect sense. Nothing to question here. No need to question anyone's sanity. A man just posted the same exact thing twice in 1 hour. With 30 minutes later, he forgot he posted it and posted it again. Nothing. No,
Wait, you
not the
sent that
same
to me.
words. Like he rewrote the post. Yes, like he
Which one
doesn't
was it
even
again?
remember any longer when he is posting things. Here, I mean, we'll go through it because I did a whole chronological thing. I just wanted to go through a lot of things Trump posted, but I think we should post like just really quick. We can both just hear this blind because you know me. Apparently, I was just Lindsey Graham was on Fox and Friends this morning right now, and they're just posting clips from it. So let's listen to Lindsey Graham. I just, whenever he's on Fox and Friends, it's not as good as when he's on Hannity because he's probably not that tipsy, but I'm sure. I'm sure it's good. Let's see if he cries. This is Lindsey Graham just right now. He was on Fox and Friends saying some.
Radicals, not Donald Trump. So this Colorado decision won't stand. It's time for us all to fight back. Speaking of Chick-fil-A.
You waged war on Chick-fil-A.
You like that?
Transition right there.
Are you prompting us to ask you a question?
Okay. You know, the guy on before me, the Christian guy, wasn't that an awesome
And the
dad?
Satan Club.
Yeah.
Oh, I need to tell you something previously that is relevant to this. The reason he's mentioning Chick-fil-A is because there's a bill or something in New York to keep Chick-fil-A open on Sundays. They're trying. They're because Chick-fil-A is not. If you don't know, Chick-fil-A is like a religious company, so that's why God said, "Thou shalt not eat chicken." On Sundays, so no, Chick-fil-A is not open. So apparently they're trying to make Chick-fil-A open on Sundays.
So
What a reasonable man.
what an unbelievably reasonable man. So the state of New York, where I'm at, wants to pass a law to make Chick-fil-A stay open on Sunday. Well, if you can have a Satan club in high school, surely they can close on Sunday because they believe it's the Lord's Day. So Dan Cathy's out there watching us. To the Chick-fil-A people, you stand your ground. I've got your back. It's illegal what they're trying to do. Trying to make Chick-fil-A stay open on Sunday violates their constitutional rights, and this is one of the most liberal places in the world.
Yeah, well,
and
Senator,
we're going to
listen.
fight you,
Here
New York.
comes chicken.
We're not going to give in
It's
to
not
this.
Sunday, it's Wednesday.
This
but we
is
do have
Wednesday.
Chick-fil-A for you, so I
This
hope
is
that you're
God's
hungry.
chicken.
They're bringing in Chick-fil-A right now.
Yeah.
For 3 hours today. It took a South Carolinian.
I fact checked this
God.
while we were going. Let me explain what this bill is in New York. This bill, when he said that, I'm like, that's a dumb fucking bill. That's not going to pass. And of course, I would
course
not
not.
support a bill that forces Chick-fil-A to be open on Sunday.
Yeah.
This would number one, would not apply to any existing Chick-fil-A. It would only be new Chick-fil-A's. And it would only be at concessions owned by the state and Port Authority. So this
okay.
does make
There you
sense
go.
to me.
There
if
you go.
Chick-fil-A wants to operate in a state-owned or Port Authority, this is New York and New Jersey. If they want to operate in state-owned facilities, then yeah, they
So like
can't-
airports
Correct. Yeah. So
and
then
train
maybe
station,
you
like
don't
Grand
get your
Central
religious
Station.
freedom.
Yeah, just to give you guys an idea of what that
Don't
would
go
be.
then.
So like the airport Chick-fil-A, like they're saying, can you please serve chicken on Sundays or something?
Yeah. I wonder. I have a cousin who owns or whatever. Yeah, he owns a Chick-fil-A, or a cousin's.
Lindsey
I don't know what
Graham
it-
is famously obsessed with Chick-fil-A. I don't know. I remember when they were talking about Joe Biden, like like.
Listen. We
Do you
know why
remember
he's
what
a-
remember what
mask.
Lindsey Graham said? He's like, "You won't find any documents at my house. Chick-fil-A wrappers, yes."
I don't remember that.
That's what Lindsey Graham said. Or
Lindsey Graham. Basically, everything Lindsey Graham says is, "There's no documents at my house. By the way, I'm not gay. I'm not gay.
there you go.
There's
What?
only Chick-fil-A.
No one asked, Lindsey.
If you go to my house, all we have is Chick-fil-A and Kung Fu movies. That's it. And pictures of babes all over the wall. He has pictures of Baywatch pinups all over his wall. That was a dated reference. I don't know if people use posters anymore. Do people still do posters?
I don't know, but we should. We should.
All right. When we build our studio, we'll put posters of Lindsey Graham.
Oh, I was gonna. Yeah, for sure. I was gonna
But
talk to you about that. I think what. Well, I shouldn't say my idea on here, but that's that one day I text you and I was like, "Oh, I want to run something by you." I've been thinking about it. It is about that. It's about what our
poster
set could
company?
be like for our studio. Yeah.
Okay. I was hoping
No,
for a
it's not
poster
about a
company.
poster company, but maybe we should do a poster company. Let's kill some more trees.
Um,
You know what I want to hear about from you?
yeah.
Number one in the outline. I want to hear you talk about this.
All right, let me go to the outline.
It's your Mormon quotes, Mormon
Oh
tweets,
yeah.
or I
Um,
like this account. I'm like following it now.
oh yeah, that account is unbelievable. By the way, pro tip: there's a company called Bear Chicken.
Bear
Um,
chicken?
Bear,
What?
B-A-R-E, chicken. It's
Oh, bear chicken. Okay, yeah, yeah.
yeah, their nuggets are exactly the same as Chick-fil-A, and you don't have to feel bad about eating them. You just throw them in your air fryer for 10 to 12 minutes, and you have Chick-fil-A nuggets at your house,
I love
and
an air
your
fryer.
nuggets don't hate gay people, which is terrific.
Wait, so you're saying you get them in a bag and are
Yeah,
they
they're in a, you get them
frozen
at
and then you
Costco. Or you can get them anywhere,
okay.
but I get a big
I'm
ass
gonna
bag
write
at
that
Costco. They
down.
have the tenders or the nuggets. They're unbelievable. Chicken without the hate. Thank you, Lauren. I appreciate. Yeah, I agree. All right. Um, this was from. I recently found this Twitter account too. They are
This is good
called
stuff.
Tweet the
Tweet the
Mormons,
Mormon. Yeah, follow
and
Tweet the Mormon.
it's a. At first, I didn't really know if I wanted to follow it because the profile picture was AI, and I'm a little jaded about AI profile pictures.
Oh God.
Um, but basically, they just tweet things that like Mormons have actually said. And here is my this one was by far my favorite. So this is from Orson Pratt. Orson Pratt was one of the original apostles, and this is from the Journal of Discourses. So early on with the church, the Journal of Discourses was just like a set of writings from early Mormon apostles. And to give you an idea of some of them are crazy because what would happen is they were in this place called Kirtland, Ohio, and they had a little like country store. And above the country store, they would have this meeting place. They called it the School of the Prophets. And they would get together every once in a while and do School of the Prophets. They would fast for days, and then they would go upstairs
Be
and they would
hallucinating.
yeah, and they would spit tobacco and drink and smoke cigars, and then they would have these revelations. Which, when I was going through
Okay.
my Mormon deconstruction, one of the most like powerful moments for me was this guy explaining this scenario because some of the most important stuff that happened in Mormonism came from the School of Prophets, like the Word of Wisdom, where you can't drink coffee, tea, alcohol, and he's like, yeah, like uh it seemed like these guys were seeing miracles, but if you don't eat and then you drink and smoke for 3 days, or if you don't eat for 3 days, then go and drink and smoke and get hammered, you're gonna see some shit. And I was like, oh my gosh, of course, like, of course that's it. Anyways, so this came out of that. This is from Orson Pratt, but said this law of and I think I texted you and said Mormons sound like lefties, right? Early Mormons sound
Yeah,
like lefties.
progressives. Yeah.
Yeah.
This sounds like
This
something I would say.
and keep in mind, this is the same group that lived communism, the Mormons, who are all conservative Trump people now. This law of monogamy, or the monogamic system, laid the foundation for prostitution and the evils and diseases of the most revolting nature and character under which modern Christendom groans. Uh, Now, the problem with this is it sounds like exactly what we talked about yesterday when we talked about like how marriage came into play, how historically people in this world didn't get married, and maybe we weren't meant to be monogamous. But the problem with this was like their justification for polygamy, which was not ideal if you're a woman. Great if you're a man, though. Unbelievable.
Exactly. But I mean, it is the same thing. I mean, like for public health, like making it shameful to have multiple sexual partners has been proven to increase like the spread of sexually transmitted STIs. What are we calling them now? Not STDs, STIs,
What
right?
up, though?
Hey, what's
Hey,
up?
Just another good day. Just another good day.
Happy Wednesday to you.
So I see the topic up there. Why would you go further? Something like clearly
Hey,
one
brother, is there
individual.
any way you could get a little closer to your mic? We can barely hear you.
Give me 1 second. All right.
Sure. Uh, just
That
while we're
better.
waiting. Oh, are you there?
That better.
Yeah, that's better.
Well, yeah, yeah. So, clearly one person would support Trump over Biden. Maybe they like Trump a little bit more than Biden in certain areas.
Like where?
Foreign policy, maybe. I think he's probably more safer option for the
What would
country in terms of not getting in this conflicts and whatnot.
a Trump foreign policy be that you like that you maybe could you compare that to Biden's foreign policy? Something specific you
Nah,
could
not
point
really.
to.
Not really. I can point to specifically just what I can see.
So I guess my question is why are you sure that their foreign policy is even different?
For 1 second, I was getting a sandwich at Quick Trip. My bad, bro.
No, you're good.
Say it again.
If you can't point to any differences, how do you know that their foreign policy is even different?
Oh, from what I can see.
Can see what?
Yeah, so what I'm seeing right now is I'm seeing a conflict between two foreign countries that we are financing for unknown amounts of time.
Do you think it's then do you think it's our job to step in and stop foreign conflicts from happening?
Nah,
Okay, so how would we stop foreign conflicts from happening then? You're muted there, friend.
sorry about that. I mean, sorry about that. My bad.
Oh, you're
Quick
good.
Trip, my bad. She was asking about the sandwich. It's like a mix-up between somebody. I ordered, how you order a sandwich at Quick Trip, right? And they came through,
I've never
and the
ordered a
dude,
sandwich at Quick Trip.
You can order
Never.
a
grabbed it.
sandwich at Quick Trip.
Oh yeah, for real. It's nice up here. It's nice.
Yeah, the
You
new
know what I
ones
mean?
have like deli. They have pizza. They have like fresh made
Not the
sandwiches. They
one
have
by
like breakfast
Mayo.
burritos. Yeah, it's real.
Yeah, you're the one that eats gas station pizza. Be
All
quiet.
right.
It's
Guys, tap the
delicious. It's
screen.
delicious.
Let's get to 25K.
I'm not gonna tell you things anymore if you're gonna throw it in my face, Felice.
Well, you got
Yeah,
your
I got
you got
5
a
minutes so
tummy
far.
ache.
You're good. So yeah, that's the question. So if you like you said you like Trump's foreign policy better because of the things that are going on in foreign countries, but you don't believe we should intervene. So what's Trump's foreign policy that would have stopped this then?
So what I essentially am seeing is I'm seeing between the two candidates, only one of them is talking about peace and sitting at the table and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? I'm not seeing Joe Biden talking about constantly rallying for peace between these two
I think
nations.
I think both Trump and Biden said the same thing, that they support Israel.
Yeah. But Trump said he ended the war in Israel.
Well, yeah, but how? If you don't believe he should intervene, how's he going to end it?
Words are powerful, right? You look to leaders
No, they're
that's
not. Not in
still
war.
saying, yeah,
Words aren't powerful at all in war. In fact,
yeah.
the most
If
powerful
you're a
thing in
foreign
war
leader,
is weapons.
if you a leader, right, and your country looking to you for your word and supporting the world looking to you, and you see the problem happening, you should be advocating for peace. Use your voice to advocate for peace, not finance war.
There's virtually no difference between what Joe Biden and Donald Trump are saying about Israel. They're both saying we support Israel. Israel needs to get rid of Hamas, and then we can have peace. They're saying the exact same thing. I disagree with both of them, but they're saying they have the same position on Israel.
I don't know. I'm only seeing Trump talk about ending
Do
things
you, yeah, do you
in
follow Biden?
Palestine, Israel. Somewhat.
Yeah, I mean Biden literally came out and said I'm pro-Israel, and he has repeatedly called for Hamas to step aside or to back down. Both of them have the same idea. They both think Hamas is the problem. They both want to wipe Hamas out. They both think Hamas should just surrender and stop doing what they're doing, but neither one of them is advocating that for a ceasefire or peace. Neither one of them want a ceasefire. They both want to wipe Hamas off the map. They have the same
Didn't
position.
Trump say? Didn't Trump say he would end the war in 24 hours?
Yeah, but how?
No idea, but that's the kind of
Well,
words he's
yeah.
using.
Wait, hold on. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna be the leading scorer in the NBA next year.
Yeah, I'm gonna take
Bro,
over
we need
Mars.
people saying, we need people actually talking about it though. We need
Wait, he's not
a
talking
large
about it
leader.
though.
He
He's
is.
just
He's the only one saying we
He's
should end
talking
it.
about giving Ukraine to a man who invaded a sovereign European nation. That's what you realize that's what he's when he says he's going to end the
If
war in 24 hours. He's going to give a sovereign nation to an invading country.
is that going to lead
That's
to
not
more
doing
life or less
anything.
life?
Well, less life
I
for
don't know. I mean, I
Ukrainians.
don't. It's a nuanced question.
That's what I'm saying.
Less
Like,
like
I
for
don't
who
think,
are
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah,
talking
yeah.
about?
I'm talking about for the people in general, like for the
Wait, but hold on.
civilians
You
who are on
said
both
wait,
sides.
No,
but you said you don't
it's
want us
not.
to intervene.
No, no.
How's he
What I'm
how's
saying,
he
yeah,
gonna
yeah, as
give
in,
how's he gonna give away a like how is he gonna do
We
anything without
can't give
intervening?
away
And
sovereign nations.
by him not doing nothing, that's not him giving something. But us just keeping our mind, our business out of it. Not now, we financing. I'm not heartless. We financing just medical care, and we helping them out with like things that'll benefit their people and build their country up. Sure, this is a good thing. But giving people weapons to say this is a path to peace, the olive branch to peace is by you giving weapons to people and encourage them to fight each other for unknown amounts of time.
do
That's
you
a
know
terrible
that
idea.
real quick? Do you know
That's
that
not
Donald
what's
Trump?
happening.
Hold, do you know that Donald Trump gave weapons to both Israel and Ukraine while he was president?
Yeah, while he was president, but this wasn't happening while he was president.
What? No, wait.
It absolutely was.
Russia had invaded Ukraine already. They were in Crimea, and this conflict in Israel and Palestine has been going on for decades. Both of these things were active while Trump was president. The only difference is the escalation.
Hold on, I have the count.
So if Trump's solution while he was in office was to arm the Ukrainians and arm Israel, why do you think that wouldn't be his solution again?
Because what he's campaigning on is the opposite of that.
He's
And I
not. He's
believe what
not
he's
campaigning
campaigning
on.
on.
No, he's campaigning on that. He is literally saying, I am pro-Israel. I stand with Israel. We need to wipe Hamas off the map."
Yeah, but he's talking about ending the violence. He literally is saying in these rallies, peace between the civilians, peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians. Is what he's literally saying in these
I
Yeah,
rallies.
watch every Trump rally. I watch every Trump rally. That's not what he's saying. Like I've
He is
never
there are definitely
missed a
clips of this
Trump
man
rally.
talking about
I've
peace.
never missed a Trump rally since he started having Trump rallies. He's not saying that.
He has definitely dropped the P
The
word
only thing
several
he's
times.
addressing, well, listen, he truly is not saying that. But I mean, I would like to see the quote. But I mean, when he's talking about peace, you're talking about a sovereign nation, and Vladimir Putin is committing war crimes, right? That's what we have. We have a man who's taken over a nuclear power plant and is slowly leaking radiation into the atmosphere. There's many articles you can read about the list of war crimes, human atrocities that are being committed against the Ukrainian people. Ukraine, you're acting as if Ukraine wanted to enter another sovereign country and go to war unprovoked. All Ukraine is doing is defending themselves.
I think
Russia
it's
needs to pack
Zelensky.
up and leave the country that is not theirs. Correct?
Sure,
Like,
I agree
we're
with
not
you on that.
arming a nation to invade another nation. A sovereign European country was invaded, and they have every right to protect themselves. And if we allow them to invade Ukraine, next will be a country in NATO. And then it won't just be us sending our old weapons to them, right? Then it's going to be the troops. Then it's going to be US soldiers fighting in Europe. This
That's
is
the
to
same argument that the
deter
Israeli
an
supporters
actual
say.
war. Well, right now we're talking about Ukraine, so I don't
I
want to
know. I'm just
pivot
saying
to
it's a
something else.
similarity. It's a similarity in your argumentation, essentially saying
But
that if we continue to hold on, we continue to say we're going to support people fighting and help people fight, that this is going to lead to everlasting peace. It's just a goofy idea. The fact that you would even say that if we keep supporting aggression at a foreign power, this is
no,
going to somehow
you're
prevent more
talking
war.
about
This
two
is
different.
crazy.
Hold on, you're
No, but
talking
no,
about
that's what
two
you
different
said. No,
things.
no,
You
I'm saying
know
I'm talking
that.
about
Stop
Ukraine, Russia.
talking.
No,
Let
Ukraine,
let
Russia.
me
Ukraine,
stop
Russia. You just
pivoting to
spoke.
Israel.
No, I'm not
You're
pivoting to
stop
Israel.
pivoting
Stay on
to
Ukraine,
Israel.
Russia.
Hey,
Yes,
Stay
you
brother,
with
are.
brother,
Ukraine,
be
Ukraine,
hey,
Stop
Russia.
brother, be
talking.
respect. Please be
Stop talking.
respectful. It's not just
I'm
your
not,
platform.
and that
She's got
is
to be able to
not, that is
respond.
not what I said. What I said was, we're talking about Ukraine. Russia invaded a sovereign nation, right? A sovereign nation wants Russia to leave, doesn't want to take over Russia, isn't trying to annex their land. The opposite is happening, right? And that we're talking about Western Europe. This borders nations with NATO that we will have to send our troops to defend. So this is about deterring a war in Europe. Now,
Imagine,
Deterring
go
war
ahead.
in Europe. We
yeah,
deterring war in
imagine.
Europe by supporting war in Europe.
Let me ask you. Imagine this.
No.
Imagine Mexico invaded the United States. They took over the state of Arizona, and they had control over the state of Arizona. Do you think the right way forward would be for the United States to just give them Arizona?
Nah.
Okay, well, that's what happened in
Exactly.
Ukraine. Russia came in, they took Crimea, and they, which is part of Ukraine. and now they control Crimea, and Ukraine wants them out. Does Ukraine have the? Do you think Ukraine should be able to do whatever they can to get Russia out of their country?
No,
You no. What should, you don't think Ukraine should be able
no,
to
I don't
fight
think it should.
back
I
against
don't think it
Russia?
should. I didn't say fight back. You said whatever. You should
Okay.
do
Well, yeah.
whatever. It's completely
Okay.
different
Do you think they
things.
should fight? Can they launch missile attacks? Can they fire weapons at them?
To an extent, I think any country should defend itself to an extent. But when it comes to a huge amount of human
Okay.
loss
So
and human loss
where
of
can you?
life,
What can they
I
not
don't
do?
think so.
That's
What can they
ridiculous.
not do?
Yeah. So I don't think that we should. I don't think that what they shouldn't do is sacrifice their civilians and the civilians of other people's countries for an unknown amount of time. Because
Okay, so
when is
if
how
Mexico
long
invaded
are we being on
Arizona
this with
and
them?
Mexico was holding Arizona people hostage, and there was no way to attack the people in Arizona, the people who had taken over Arizona, then do we just give Arizona to the Mexicans?
Yes, yes. In this
That's
case, instead of sacrificing people,
Okay.
That's
yeah,
Why? That, no,
absolutely
it's honest.
delusional.
It's
And the
honest.
funny part
absolutely.
is you're
Because
talking to
because it's
two people
sacrificing
who are
human
we're
human
in
beings.
Arizona.
I hear you, but
We're in
it's sacrificing human
Arizona, and
beings
you're
for human
literally
beings for
telling your theory
territory.
is to just give us away to an invader. Oh, sorry, everyone in Arizona, you now belong to another country. That makes absolutely no sense.
At
And
the
all you
cost of
would
its
be saying
people?
is, okay, do
Yeah.
it again. Why stop at Arizona? Take New Mexico, take Texas, take our whole country. And according to your strategy, if you were president, your strategy is just give it to them. That just give it to them.
It's sit
Just
at the
give it.
table and negotiate for peace. I'm not saying
It's
necessarily give it
just
to
roll,
them,
delusional.
just
You're
roll.
but
saying
go for
something that
peace.
is delusional. You know
No,
it's
what you're
delusional.
saying,
Don't
hold
die
on.
on this
To
hill.
me,
Don't
what you're
die on
saying
this
is,
hill.
I hear you, but to me, what you're saying is, you're saying to prevent further conflict around the world and prevent U.S. troops from being boots on the ground, we need to finance aggression.
Hold
That's
on.
crazy.
No, we're
That's I
financing
want to be clear
defense.
about
We're
what we're saying.
financing
We're
defense.
financing a defense of a sovereign nation. Just like we would not give Arizona, we would not give our country away state by state to invaders that showed up.
You really
We're
believe the
not
government? You really believe these
No,
people?
stop.
God
We're
damn,
not saying
dude.
finance active aggression. And if you listen, we are not saying finance aggression. We're not saying, hey, let's arm countries so they can go proactively attack people. We're saying sovereign nations have every right to defend themselves when they're entered illegally. That's what
All
we're
right,
saying here.
I
And
gotta get out of here.
nobody would
It's a
advocate
sandwich.
for giving our country away piece by piece if it was invaded. It doesn't make sense.
I hear you. I got one more question, and I'll let you ask the last question actually, because I don't have the last word. But do y'all believe when the government said that, the people in Iraq, Afghanistan, all them were, potentially behind 9/11, and they said that
They
they had weapons
they
of
didn't
mass.
say
Y'all
that.
believe y'all? Did y'all believe that shit?
Wait, they didn't say that. They said that Saddam Hussein had broken his agreement of having weapons of mass destruction.
No, no. But originally we were going for Osama bin Laden, right? No one
That
knew
was
who it was.
Afghanistan.
No, he was from Saudi. He was a Saudi national.
I know, but
Osama
that's
was.
why
But
we
I'm
went to
saying,
Afghanistan,
right, right, right.
not
So
Iraq.
y'all believe that? Did y'all believe that shit?
Almost everybody did. Like 90% of our
All
country
right.
did.
So right, but they were wrong about that though, right?
Sort of. Yeah, I think that's more. I think that's a more gray area than people like to pretend. When we went to Iraq, did we find weapons of mass destruction? No. But what did we find? We found all the components used, including processes to enrich uranium, and they were not put together. We have video, aerial footage of Iraq moving these big weapons manufacturers, and they buried these weapons. They tried to hide them. It's not as clear cut as people say. I still to this day can't figure out why people think that Iraq was not trying to build weapons of mass destruction. They absolutely were. There's almost no question to that. Well, there is no question on that. The question is whether they had them assembled or not, and we didn't have any proof that they had them assembled. But we had all the parts. We knew that they were manufacturing the parts. We knew that they were trying to enrich uranium. Do I think that justified us going there? No. But when people say that they just like didn't have weapons of mass destruction, I think that's really dishonest.
At the time, people believed that this was the right thing to do, invade Iraq, and at the time,
But
just like
but
how
listen,
you
brother.
individually believe at
Listen.
the
I
time that
understand.
it's
Listen.
correct.
Hold on.
I
Hold on.
don't believe
Hold on.
this.
Hold on. I understand what you're saying. I understand that you're saying like the government has lied to us before, so we can never believe them. But I think that's a really stupid way to live life. I think what it should have done is it should have made us more skeptical of government, But because the government lied doesn't mean that they always lie. And this is what I see on the MAGA front. Anytime something comes up that you don't like, if there's something that's inconvenient for your narrative, you just revert back to the government lied. I'm cool with the idea that the government lies. I agree with you. They do lie. But what we have to do is be critical of what they say and fact check the things that they do. Like, we have the ability to check our government. We have FOIA requests. We have media who's constantly checking them. We have Congress. There are ways for us to find out if the government is lying. What I think you're doing, and I think it's lazy, honestly, is that when you get stuck in an argument and there's something you don't know or something you can't answer, you revert back to the government lies to us. And it makes it so that you don't have to do any real critical thinking. You don't have to go past the points that you don't understand. It allows you to throw on that MAGA cap and be MAGA, MAGA, MAGA. And this is why we have such a divide in this country, is when we get to a point where you can't answer the question anymore, what you say is, whoa, what, do you really trust the government? That's not a real conversation, man.
That wasn't my only take. I was mostly
I know,
appealing
but
to the
I didn't say that
government
was
and
your
the
only
government.
take. I
It was
said when you
also,
got stuck and couldn't answer the question, instead of saying, I don't know, I'll look into that, or maybe what sources are you coming up with, I'll look into that, you revert
no, I knew about Saddam
immediately back
Hussein.
to the government lies to us. And I think that that's what's happened with MAGA. I think you guys are really lazy researchers. You already
No, I'm
have
just
an
looking at
outcome
the.
in mind. You already know what you think you know, and you're not going to research further than that.
No, I'm looking at what I'm looking at. Like I said, I'm looking at past events, current events, and what the young lady up there said to me, is reminiscent of that era. This era
This
of
isn't even remotely
this
I
the same.
era
I
We
of
agree.
invaded Iraq, and we're
to me
just
like
supplying
American
we're just
Yeah,
imperialism
supplying weapons
isn't
to
new.
Israel and
This isn't.
Ukraine.
I'm just saying
These
this
aren't
isn't.
analogous at all.
But these positions, right? America has put their hands in a lot of dirty events, a lot of toppling of
Sure,
governments, and a lot of
certainly we
coups, and
have.
all
We
sorts of
have
things. So this idea that we like some
absolutely.
ultimate force for good, and suddenly we some ultimate
Oh,
force for
I
good, to
don't.
me is
Hey, I want to say
nonsense.
something. I agree with that. I agree with what you're saying. I don't. Hold on. I do not think America is a force for good. I think that that is something that is taught inside of America. If you live outside of this country, nobody in the world sees America as a force for good. We are a country that is fueling a capitalistic economy. So, yes, America's military intervention around the world has a lot to do with us needing constant influx of resources to our economy. And so, yeah, I agree. When people start with the narrative, oh, we're protecting people, we might in some cases have protected people, but certainly first we're protecting our domestic economy, right? We're like first and foremost. So I do agree with you, but I think like when we were specifically talking about Ukraine, Ukraine is a thing where they were entered, a sovereign nation was entered, we're providing defense, and then we need to look at our real partners in Western Europe and that region and what will happen if they're invaded next, which is then we're going to be involved in a full-scale war that will involve our troops. We need to avoid that. But absolutely, America, because of our capitalistic economy, we are entering sovereign nations all the time, right? And that would be my point. Like, it's almost like you're arguing my point, which is a little bit confusing to me because my point is there's not peace ever in America, right? Like Donald Trump can use that as a talking point for the election, but because of capitalism, there's never peace. We are always in other countries. In 2020, like you're thinking that there was peace, and Donald Trump did a coup in Venezuela. People wonder why all these Venezuelans are at the southern border. That's because Donald Trump did a coup that he just forgot to mention. He failed at it. Maduro's still the president. He did a failed coup. We never get to hear about his failures, but he did it. And that's why the Venezuelans are at our southern border. So yeah, my argument is, yeah, America is involved in all types of military action, proxy wars. And it's not about, oh, well, Donald Trump wants peace and Joe Biden doesn't. It's about we are never at peace. America is never at peace. We're always our military is always policing the world and entering sovereign nations.
Well, that's fair. Well, it was lovely talking to both of y'all. Y'all have a great day.
And I followed
And
you. Come
Yeah,
back and
come.
see us sometime if
I
you want.
appreciate it. Look, you gotta get a sandwich at Quick Trip. You need that sandwich.
I'm
This
going to.
this
I'll
dude
report
low key
back.
works at marketing for Quick Trip. He just came up. This was a
I'm
marketing ploy.
salivating eating this sandwich. The tomato's so juicy and ripe. You don't
Oh
have
my
any
God,
idea
that
how good
sounds
this sandwich is.
good.
Enjoy it, my friend.
I love a deli sandwich.
Listen,
Just kidding.
I've not had a quick trip sandwich, but when I lived on the East Coast, my favorite sandwich place was Wawa. I would go to Wawa all the time, which is, if you lived on
Where
the
did
East
you
Coast,
live on the East Coast? I didn't know you lived on the East Coast. I
I
haven't
lived
thought about
in
Wawa in a long time.
yeah, I lived in South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia. And Virginia is
Really?
when I had Wawa. Yeah, I lived in Virginia Beach. Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay,
A weird
okay.
Virginia Beach is a crazy place. It's like that
Yeah.
whole area. It's it's like either
They should have a reality show of like cops just in Virginia Beach, like the random stuff going on.
Virginia. That was the first time I ever went to a Pentecostal church when I was there. I think I
Oh
told you.
yeah,
Yeah, this guy's just like, come to
the
church
Holy
with me.
Spirit.
Yeah, he's like, come to church with me. I was like, all right, cool. And I just felt like he should have warned me that towards the end, the woman behind me would start shrieking. It scared the shit out of
That's
me.
the Holy Spirit. That's the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, I'm from Mormon church, so I'm just sitting there and they're
Yeah,
singing, and
it's
the
quiet.
music's better in other churches than Mormon churches, and we're just singing, and then this lady behind me, I was like, oh my god! I like jumped out of my seat, scared the shit out of me. I was so scared.
It's
All right, let's
intense. Praise
see.
and worship's intense in the Pentecostal churches.
Fed, you were
Oh,
next.
let's you. Oh,
Hey,
Liz,
RTP. Hi, Felice.
Hey,
hi.
I really enjoyed this conversation. I just want to be upfront before anything. I'm not a MAGA,
okay.
but I've been struggling about next year in the election. I wanted to talk through it with you all. You both seem very educated, and I've really enjoyed hearing you both speak.
Thank you.
Of course. So I wouldn't say I'm a MAGA. I've actually never even voted for a Republican ever in my life, but I've definitely lost and left the Democratic Party 100%. And I feel like I'm in this abyss, this political abyss right now where I feel really hopeless about our future as a country. So I'm feeling very MAG, like make America great. Not again, because haven't
Yeah,
found that point in history where it was. But I'm not sure where we are. I feel like electoralism is just a distraction right now because I'm looking at two sides of the same coin and realizing our country is just run by professional criminals.
fair.
So
When you
what
left?
do you
Not.
do, guys?
Yeah, is your are you feeling that the Democrat Party left you because of what's happening in Israel?
That was the tipping point for me
Okay.
where I was just like officially walked away. But it's been a slow decline for me since 2015, 2016.
Okay. Look, I actually think that that's fair, to be honest. I do. And I think that it's important. Here's the tricky part.
Yeah.
You want to hold Biden and the moderate Democrats accountable. And obviously the thing that would hurt them the most would be to vote for Trump. That's the worst thing you could do. That's what you
Yeah.
could hurt them the
That
most.
I don't think that was ever an option for me. But
Okay.
I also don't feel like, and this isn't just about the presidential election. I always think that we give so much hype to the presidential election and don't focus on everything else. Like most of the House of Representatives and half of the Senate is up for reelection. I think that should be our focus as Americans as well.
Agree.
But I'm just not seeing anything worth voting. I mean, I'm shocked at myself, but the only representative that I've been hearing that is making any sense at all is Thomas Massey, who shockingly is a Republican from Kentucky, which I'm a Northeasterner. I'm outside, I'm in the New York City bubble. So for me to even say that, I'm like glitching.
What did you feel like? Like his
Thomas
anti-war
Massey
stances,
is
or?
a glitch in the
Right?
matrix.
And that's why I'm like, I'm glitching as a person because I
What does
mean,
Thomas Massey say that you agree with? Just out of
well,
curiosity.
I've been really enjoying. So I guess where I'm finding myself is that I'm actually leaning towards being maybe a libertarian in the sense that I'm really, really, really scared at the trajectory that we're going in of losing our freedoms as humans first and foremost, but also as citizens of this country with a constitution that isn't being upheld.
Look, so I consider myself a libertarian socialist. I like the ideas of liberty and freedom of expression,
Right.
individual freedoms. I like all that. I was a Republican, then a libertarian.
Okay.
Um, So I get that. There's things that Ron Paul, Rand Paul, Thomas Massey, Justin Amash was by far my favorite person in Congress for a long time. He's a libertarian.
Right.
And so I'm cool with that. But the problem with that I have with Thomas Massey is that Thomas Massey is a libertarian until it comes down to like Christian nationalism. In which
Mm,
case, like he will oppose the individual liberties of the LGBTQ community. He
yeah.
will oppose the individual liberties
Absolutely.
of
And I
BLM.
don't stand for that at all.
Yeah, and
I know,
that's
and it's
what
so
sucks about
contrary to
Massey's.
being libertarian. Yeah, it's like if you can't, you got to support it all
Right.
or
Which is why
nothing.
I'm saying that I'm not from Kentucky. So obviously I don't have a dog in this fight, whether I can vote for him or not. But just some of the more recent things he's been saying, I never done a deep dive into him. It's not my jurisdiction. So just recently, out of all of the representatives, I enjoyed his rhetoric around that particular situation. But I hear you about LGBTQ rights. That's something that's so important to me. And if he's obviously against that, then I'm not for that. But I don't know. Again, we're back to the fundamental first question that I said. Where are we in politics right now?
Well,
I feel
I
so
think it's important to
hopeless.
remember that when you vote, and especially like, you mentioned this, like down ticket is so important. If you want Joe Biden to act more progressive, you need to add more progressive pressure, which means you need to add more progressives in Congress and in the Senate. Joe Biden is, of all things, Joe Biden what he's really, really good at is finding the majority position and supporting that and being a voice for that. He's always done for 50 straight years. He's been just the majority decision. It's what he does. Joe Biden is not known for taking a minority position and standing firm on that minority position. So
Hmm.
for me, like voting for Joe Biden is really simple. Do I want fascism? No. Do I like Joe Biden? No. So I'm
But
going to
when I
vote for
look
Joe
at Joe
Biden, and then
Biden, let me,
I'm going to vote out, try and vote out Kirsten Sinema and replace her with a progressive. And
hmm
then hopefully down ballot everywhere, we're adding more and more progressives. The more
yeah.
progressive we can make Congress and the Senate, the more we can force Joe Biden to the left. Because Joe Biden is always just going to lick his finger, figure out which way the wind is blowing, and he's going to go with that.
But then how has he been so dead wrong on the pulse of his party right now? Like, I feel so far away from where our representatives stand, particularly with what's going on in the Middle East right now. And I think probably because so I lived in Israel for a really long time. I'm Jewish. And just seeing the response about this is so heartbreaking to me. I
I don't.
can't
I think the
stomach it.
shitty part is that he's not ignoring the bulk of his party. I still think that there is a massive part of the Democrat Party, the establishment Democrats, the moderate Democrats, they are pro-Israel. They're still like for whatever reason Christians are pro-Israel and they just think that so they'll justify all sorts of madness from Israel because of that position. I think what he's doing is ignoring some loud voices and some of the loudest voices in media now on the left are
Hmm.
far more progressive than Joe Biden. So it does feel like he's ignoring that, but I still think that I mean Joe Biden won because the Democrat Party is very moderate in general. That's why it wasn't
Maybe
Bernie
that's
Sanders.
where
That's
I'm
why it
feeling
wasn't Elizabeth
disillusioned
Warren.
by it.
They
Yeah.
brought
I
in the
think that I'm
safest
not
possible
that.
option, and he won. Like
Well,
we
yeah.
voted him in.
Yeah.
I hear
I
that.
was we were talking about this yesterday a little bit. Like Joe Biden, they were looking for someone when they were saying who can beat Donald Trump. They were saying we need someone who's not corrupt, right? Like the opposite of the
How is
antithesis of
Biden
Trump.
that though?
Well, there he just isn't. I mean, and I'll be the first one to say when and if they find the evidence that he is, let's do something about it. I'm tired of rich white men in this country, like and nepotism. So, but the fact is, Joe Biden just isn't corrupt. They've been investigating him for almost 9 years. They found nothing, and
Oh, I
the
hear you
minute
on that.
they had
I'm
something.
not a corrupt like Biden
Well,
is. I think
yeah, Joe
my
Biden is
version of
not
corruption is,
corrupt.
I
Like,
guess,
I
the
mean, he's just
lobbying
not on the
thing.
scale that Donald Trump is. So that's my
Oh, a
point.
hundred
Is like,
percent.
and they when they were looking for who could beat Trump, they just said we need someone in the middle because they're looking at when we look at how Joe Biden rides the middle. That's exactly what we wanted at that time, right? So he aligns. That's why he gets so much work done in Congress and has got so much work done. I was listening to I think the Midas Touch podcast last night, and they were talking about just how much work Joe Biden's able to get done, and how he might be 83, but because of his 30 plus years experience, how many of the establishment Republicans he knows and has worked with in Congress, he's able to get things passed, get them to agree to things that other people aren't. So he has been very effective. He understands how to play the game. So that 30 years worth of experience has obviously been worth something. But here's what I think, because I agree with you. I'm a progressive, like through and through. If we were in like a Scandinavian country, like if I could move to any country, I always say it would be Denmark. And
Right.
there's many political parties in Denmark, right? And so if we had what we should have here, the Democratic Party should be like four parties, right? There should be the moderates in the middle, there could be the liberals, then there could be, the progressives, then there could be the democratic socialists. And
Right.
then combinations of those four would like get together and agree on a candidate, right? And if we had more representation on the left, the progressives and the democratic socialists, we could get a more progressive democratic candidate and get the moderates to buy into that. Like multiple parties band together behind one candidate to try to get people elected in other types of political systems. Like we just
Yeah.
have two parties, and like that's what you're saying, because
And they're
it
both
makes no
bought and
sense. We
paid,
feel
which is what
so
breaks my
misrepresented.
heart. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't feel represented right now by our party, and that's why in other democratic socialist countries you see more parties, because like you're saying, we're just like, this doesn't represent me. I don't feel this way. What's going
Right.
on? So in the future, that's what I would like to see. But since we do have two parties, and we as women, if we vote for a Republican, all we're doing is hurting ourselves. People with uteruses, right? Like the LGBTQ, all of
That's
these.
where I am.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm you
So
are
we have to pull the
exactly saying
country.
exactly how I feel right now. It's just
Yeah.
like I just don't feel like I could stomach voting for Biden. And I think particularly what I'm realizing in our government and just how politics in this country particularly works is that they serve who lines their pockets. And seeing the amount of corporate money that goes into the decisions that are made. Even Princeton released a study within the last 5 years showing public support versus what bills get passed and comparing it to lobbying money and what bills get passed. And being virtually no difference between Democrats and Republicans on party sentiment versus what actually gets implemented and legislated.
Oh, yeah,
And like, how do
I
we
was
get
listening.
to that problem? Because I truly hear you. Like, I don't think our problem is the people, because we
We
can
have to get
move.
money out of
Right.
politics,
It's the
right?
money.
Citizens United, the lobbying, like, yeah, until it takes 2 billion to elect a president. So yeah, corporations and their lobbyists are controlling Washington. I also heard an interesting thing. Like one of those crazy people who loves to do this is a republic, not a democracy type thing, was calling into C-SPAN. And so the guy kind of explained, well, a Republican is a or is a
An
representative
indirect.
democracy.
Yeah.
Yeah, is a representative democracy, and kind of explained the whole thing. But he actually at the end ended up making a really good point, which was that our representative democracy, because of gerrymandering, because the districts are being gerrymandered, are not representing the people anymore. And that is the problem. We are not being represented by people who are voting in
Right.
our interests because of lobbyists, because of corporate money, because of
Then
like
that just
billionaire
makes me
donors.
feel
And
like, what
that's
is
the
voting going to
destruction of
do to fix
democracy.
that issue? Because to your point, that is the destruction of our democracy. But voting for a different face that's going to still take the same money, I just feel torn. That's how I feel. For the people in the comments saying I'm secretly MAGA, if you knew me, you would laugh. There's no way. I'm not.
No,
I'm
no,
really
this is a
not.
real sentiment. This is a real sentiment. There's a real movement, and Democrats need to address this. There is a real problem where there are specifically, and that's why I asked if you said it was Israel Gaza. You said that's the tipping point, but you're not unique. There are
My
lots of
tipping
progressive
point was Hillary
Democrats who have
Clinton.
felt like
I was
their
in
voice wasn't
college
heard since
and
Bernie
couldn't vote
Sanders.
for Hillary.
You had the Bernie Sanders episode where they basically stole the election from him and gave it to
Exactly, the
Hillary.
DNC.
And yeah, it's a this is a real thing. But I think what sucks is that sometimes, even though you feel like you've been victimized and you haven't been heard, Like everybody has this point where they're like, "Fuck it, I'm not going to fight anymore," and that's the place we can't get. Because
Right.
as soon as we're complacent, we're going to get drilled with fascism, and that's what we're seeing right now. And all the stuff, all the discord that you're seeing on Twitter, on social media, every time somebody says this, MAGA tries to embrace them. They are trying to instill fascism. It is their goal, and that's the thing that sucks. Like in
Hmm.
this country, if you're going to be politically active, if you're going to be politically engaged, get used to being shit on. Get used to not getting your way, and
I hear
understand
you.
that like you just have to keep fighting. That's what sucks. And progressives, the thing that they have is they're the smarter ones, right? They're the ones that are more inclusive. They're the ones that actually understand rights and privileges. They're the ones that are demanding equality for everybody. So you're on the right side. Don't quit the fight because you're losing these little battles. Again, vote down ballot. Get as progressive as you can down
Right.
ballot and force Joe Biden to move left. I think you're absolutely justified in feeling like nobody's listening to you. And you're right. The right people aren't. But if you shut up, then really nobody listens to you.
I hear you. And I think you said something that's really important. I don't think that what I'm saying in my sentiment is fringe. It's that the establishment is ignoring a large and growing amount of voices who are disillusioned by it all.
And they will until they can't.
Right.
Right? They will ignore you until they no longer can. And that's kind of like our goal. And that's the goal. It should be the goal of progressives. Like get to a point where you can't be ignored anymore. Keep spreading the ideas. Keep fighting the misinformation about what it means to be a progressive. That we're not just trying to take everybody's money and make the exact same money and give everybody gender studies degrees. Like that's not what we're doing. Right? So we
Exactly.
have to
I hear
keep that
you.
fight. We have to fix the messaging. We have to correct the messaging. And right now, like we're fighting decades and decades and decades of messaging against what we stand for. And it's going to take a while to undo that. And it sucks. It really fucking sucks. But we have to keep fighting.
No, yeah. You're giving me a little bit of hope because you're right. If they get their way and tire us out and we shut up, then they win. So if they're already winning, at least put up a fight. And that's, yeah, I think you're right. When you're not heard and you don't feel represented, it gets to a point where it's just like, who cares? And we can't get there. You're right. Ugh.
Yeah.
We just got
I'm
to
sorry.
fight off the authoritarian takeover mainly, right? Because all of these issues that we care about would be debated like in a normal democracy. But if we lose the democracy, right? If we go to an authoritarian government, we might not get a vote. Our votes may count even less than they do now.
Or there might not
So
even ever
yeah.
be a vote again. And that's what
Exactly. So
also
we've
really
got to keep
scares
fighting the
me.
fight. And we know fascism is anti-woman, anti-LGBT. We
It's
know what's
anti
coming
it's
there.
anti everything but if you're
Everything but
really
white
rich.
male landowners. It's
Yeah,
like, are you
exactly.
a white male landowner? If or Christian, I'm sorry, you also have to be a Christian. Excuse me, white male Christian
No, I hear
landowner.
you.
Then if not, get out of here.
Yeah, I hear people in the comments, they're like, prioritize. It's true. Okay,
Yeah, we
thank
got to
you.
fight off fascism first, and then yes, like there, just like there's a schism in with the far right and the establishment Republicans. I think that in the future, once we fight off the authoritarian takeover and the fascist takeover, like yeah, there's gonna be a schism in the left, right? Like that
Yeah, I
doesn't
think
mean we
it's
still
happening
don't
right
vote
now.
together, but there needs to be a reckoning of hey, the moderate Democrats don't care about a progressive agenda, and they are aligning with the never Trumpers, the moderate Republicans, and we feel disenfranchised, and that has to be addressed eventually.
Do you guys have any candidates or people who are running that are on your radar that you want others to kind of have more awareness of? I'm in a deep blue state, so and I actually like my representative. I'm going to vote
We're
for
in
them.
Arizona, so we're in a swing state. I
Hmm.
love Ruben Gallego
It's
personally.
exactly what I was going to say. Ruben Gallego, yeah.
What
He's
are
going to be a
their
great
stances?
senator.
Him.
Ruben
He's
Gallego,
another litigator.
yeah, Ruben Gallego is brilliant. First of all, what did he run for last time?
He went to
He was a member of the Arizona House of Representatives. He's a progressive. He's an attorney, and he's going to run against Kirsten Sinema. So we're going to get like this, who runs as a Democrat immediately flips to an independent and acts like a Republican.
Yeah.
He'll likely replace her.
Okay.
And he's somebody who not only is he smart, but he's a great public speaker. He'll be a force in Congress in congressional hearings. He'll be very influential, and I think that the progressive wing of the party will embrace him immediately. He's Hispanic, which is great, and so he can speak from his
He's a
Hispanic
Marine.
roots. Yeah, he's a Marine.
Okay.
He checks like all, and I don't mean like, let's just, if we're just being honest about politics, the more boxes you can check, the better. So this is a guy who checks. He
Son
went
of
to
immigrants.
Yeah, he went to Harvard. Like he checks every box that anybody would shit on him for, and then he's also super progressive. So I'm a big
Okay.
fan.
That's helpful. Thank you guys both for your time. I really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thanks.
This
We'll
gave
talk
me
to you
some
soon.
hope. All right,
Thank
take
you.
care.
You too.
Bye. We should talk to more people like that. Like you said, that's something that like does need to be talked about and addressed. Just like the far right feels disenfranchised from the establishment, so does the
Yeah.
far left or the
It's not that
progressives.
different than the MAGA movement, right? That these same types of
Exactly.
like ideas of I wasn't heard, and so they embraced MAGA. It's very similar. You have a wing on the left that's doing, and one thing I'll give MAGA credit for, they united their 20 or 30% and took over the party. We could probably be a little better about using our 20 or 30%. This was the big
We could
thing.
become like the left Tea Party.
Yeah.
The
I hate to
leftist
credit
Tea
Jimmy
Party.
Dore, but Jimmy Dore had that whole force the vote thing before he became just like an unabashed alt-righter. And that was something that the Republicans would have done, and the Democrats weren't willing to do, is force the vote on healthcare. But welcome, Rich B.
How we doing, guys?
Good, man. How are you?
Hi.
Good. So I just I thought I found it fascinating that you think Biden is not corrupt at all, considering that he's been behind like 40 years of failed and corrupt social policy.
What? What do you mean?
He's been part of the government that's extorted taxpayers in the name of helping the less fortunate.
Okay. Yeah, so if you're saying that anybody who's part of the government is therefore complicit in the corruption of the government, I'd agree with you. I think what we were talking about is like the corruption charges that he's being investigated for. But I can agree with
But
you
how do
there.
you
I mean,
support the government?
if you're part of
How
an
do you support
establishment that's
empowering the
corrupt,
government?
then yeah, sure, I agree with you.
So how do you support empowering these people with more power and control over your life?
I don't know that I'm advocating for them to have more control over my life at all.
When you
I
ask them
don't
for
think I've
social
ever
programs,
advocated for
that's
that.
exactly what you're doing.
Wait, real quick, Rich B. If we could, like, I promise I'll let you speak. Would you just mind letting me finish my sentences? I'll try my best not to monologue and give you adequate time, but that way we can hear the end of each other's points. Does that work for you?
Great. Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think that me personally am advocating for the government to have more control. I'm trying to think of a policy. I don't. Maybe you could think of one that I might have supported of Biden's that gives the government more control over my life.
Just where you believe the government's going to come create equality and free health care and take care of people.
So yeah, it is the government's role to establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, promote the general welfare, and provide for the common defense. So if we're talking about equality under the law, yeah, that would be the role of the government. Nobody else
So
can
you
can do
believe
that.
this corrupt bureaucracy is going to solve problems
No,
that
I
they
believe
promised to solve for the last 60 years?
no, I don't. I believe that that's their job and they're not doing it. And so I would like to replace the people in there with people who will do it.
But as you replace the people, they just fall in line.
That's true.
I've
Yeah,
watched candidates
but
enter Washington with great words and great ambitions, and then just fall in line because
okay,
this
but
is
that's
the
okay.
system.
So that's a separate thing. So yeah, the rhetoric around elections is BS, right? And that's one of my pet peeves is people listening to election rhetoric. Like we're gonna close the borders. The Republican candidates fall for it every presidential election. Here we go. We're closing the borders. We're kicking
It's
the
not
immigrants
just
out. The
Republicans, though.
Republic. No, wait. Let me finish. The Republican Party has no interest in closing the borders. The Republican Party specifically is backed by corporations who are lobbying to not close the border. They don't want to close the borders. They need cheap labor. They need
That would be both parties.
no, listen. It's the Republican corporations that lobby for it. But that's not my point though. My point is that you're talking about corruption and is there corruption in the government? Yes, but why? It's the dark money, right? It's what we were just talking about with the charming woman before. Who the problem is that we have. What was I just completely forgot what I was going to say.
Let me help. So I
So
think
Sorry.
here's my
Rich,
big question,
hear
though,
hear me
is
out,
that
Rich.
No,
it
Real
seems
oh
like
wait, no,
I
quick.
used to
sorry.
think
The corruption in
Rich,
government is
hold
the
on.
money. I was going to say
Rich,
it's the lobbyists, it's the corporations who are lobbying, right? It's the donor class, it's billionaires who are electing presidents literally with cash. Like that has to change. Until that changes, yes, the government will be corrupt, and our politicians that we elect to represent us in a representative democracy that is a republic can be bought. And we're seeing
so
that, for instance, with the NRA when gun reform, right? Making it difficult for bad people to get guns is an 85-15 issue in this country, right? Not banning guns, not abolishing the Second Amendment. No one's talking about that, but just making it harder for people that shouldn't have guns to get them is an 85-15 issue. And because of the NRA's endless lobbying money, we see politicians whose constituents want gun control consistently vote against it. That's corruption.
Felicia, before we give this government more power, shouldn't we get these problems under control first?
Yes. Now,
Okay.
can I ask you?
So this is why
Wait.
people
So
seem
wait.
unempathetic
Could
when
I?
they don't vote to
Is it
empower the
possible?
government on their promises to stabilize the
Yeah. So,
climate,
Rich,
on their
what I'd like to do
promises
is
to
I'd
feed
like
the
to
poor.
expand on my Rich. I'd like to expand on my answer that you asked. Is it important that we get these people out, that we don't give the government more power? Yes, I agree with you. You and I agree wholeheartedly on this. Now, could you explain to me why I should support Donald Trump, who is advocating that he be given more power than any president in history, that he be given special powers that no president and that has been granted and that the Constitution does not allow? If we're talking about like, would I rather have the status quo or give the government more power? I would say I'll take the status quo. The Republicans are advocating for giving the government more power. The Democrats, I agree with you. Joe Biden is advocating for the status quo, the same shit we've had for decades. He wants it largely the same. But the Republicans are the ones that are advocating for more government control. They want control over our schools. They want control over what people do in the bedroom. They want
The
control over
government
women's
already has
bodies.
control of your
Donald
school.
Trump wants control over the FTC, FCC, and FEC. He wants to be able to go
The
after
government's already in
go after.
control of that.
Wait, no, they're not. Not in the way.
Yes,
Not
these are
in no.
government
Wait, hold on.
institutions.
That if the government was already in control in the way Donald Trump wants control, then he wouldn't be running on, hey, give me new powers.
Nobody wants Trump as a king. Nobody wants Trump to violate the Constitution.
But but that's what he's
we
running
see,
on.
come on,
Wait,
hold
wait,
on.
but
What-
that's what
no,
he's running
guys,
on.
Come on, let me speak. What we see is corruption in Washington from both sides,
Okay.
and a man who is clearly not invited to the party.
And yeah, but also you might see that, and I agree with you, he's not invited to the party, but what you're doing is covering your eyes while Donald Trump says, here's my fascist takeover plan, and you guys are like, well, he's not part of the establishment, so he must therefore be good. You haven't taken that next step. Like, I want anti-establishment too. I would like somebody who is going to go against the establishment, but not with fascism. Fascism is not the right way to
Fascism
combat
is silencing your opposition.
no, wait, hold on.
Fascism is
Hold on.
labeling
Hold on, my
your
friend.
opposition
My friend. My friend.
racist, greedy homophobes
friend.
and white males, right?
My
How many
friend.
times did Felice say white males?
My friend.
She's a victim of identity
friend.
politics.
My friend.
No, I'm absolutely
hold
not.
on,
The
hold on, hold on, please. We're not
Constitution,
gonna-
hold
please,
on. I
hold
just
on,
want
no.
to correct. I'm not going to let him call me a racist. The Constitution that you love to mention recognized, the original Constitution only recognized white male landowners. That's who it was for. Sorry,
The Constitution never mentions
Sorry,
race.
Rich. Sorry, Rich, that the Constitution only recognized
Never
the only people who were
mentions
citizens
race.
was white male landowners. That's
But
how
Rich,
it went.
who-
And
The
since that
Constitution
time,
mentions
white male
race
landowners have
nowhere.
slowly had to give other groups equal rights. That's a fact, Rich.
You're wrong.
Rich, did
I just simply am not. I have a degree in history. You are wrong, sir. But whatever.
Show me where the Constitution
Rich,
Like
says
you're
Rich.
mention
stop,
race.
Rich.
Rich, let me ask you a question. did in this country did we pass legislation to allow or amendments to allow women to vote?
We did amend the
We
Constitution.
did
Yes, we
amend
did.
this. Okay, so then
That's the
doesn't
strangest thing.
that
It's almost
mean
like Rich is wrong.
doesn't that mean that women weren't allowed to vote when the Constitution was written?
No, we made equal rights for everyone.
In
We made it
1770
crystal
in
clear.
17 wait,
We
could
made
women
it crystal
was there
clear
wait, no,
that
no,
the
Rich,
rights apply to
Rich, no,
everyone
Rich,
equally.
Rich, we said that, but did we apply rights to everyone equally? Could women vote? Could black people vote?
We made it crystal clear.
I'm at
We-
no.
we
You're
eliminated
avoiding the
Could
question.
Native
Rich,
Americans
Rich,
vote?
You're avoiding the question. Could women vote?
The 3/5 compromise
This
was
is
for
so easy,
slaves.
Rich. Could women vote?
No, women could
Could
not
black
vote.
people vote?
Nope, it was the
Could
times in
native,
which the
could
country was
native, could
founded.
natives vote?
This is the times in which the country was founded. Why are
Exactly.
you?
See,
Why are
that's so.
you?
Why are you arguing that then?
It's
So
history.
again,
That's-
I
that's
was
what police
right
is saying
and Rich
too.
is wrong. Stop
No.
arguing with history.
So you're going to
You
show
already
me
know
now
the
where the
answer, Rich.
Constitution
Rich,
mentions
please
race?
stop. Rich,
No,
you
no,
were
no, because
wrong.
that's not
Please
that's not
stop.
her argument. Her argument is that when the Constitution was written, only white landowning males could vote, and you agree with that. You know that that's true. You can't ignore reality to try and pretend that what we're saying is that white landowning males are the worst people on earth. No, we're
I
saying
made one
this.
comment.
Well, I know, but just you agree with us and you're arguing. But let's get back to the point. Donald Trump is literally running on having control over our elections, our social media, our regular media, and trade. He would decide if, and the president would decide if and when we could investigate the Federal Elections Commission. Would you think that it would be okay, like if Joe Biden proposed right now that he got to decide whether or not we could investigate elections, would you support that?
No, I don't support that, and
No,
I
but
wouldn't support Donald
is
Trump
running
doing it
on.
either.
But Donald Trump is running on that.
And I wouldn't support that either.
But
But
that's
what
what
I
he's
do
run. But wait,
support
but you
is
are supporting that
reforms.
because that's what he's running
no,
on.
because you're spewing propaganda from a source of unknown,
Can I give you
right?
the source?
So
Do you want to hear the source? Rich,
I don't give a
Rich,
shit.
well,
Really,
then be
I don't
quiet.
care
Okay, I
because
got to mute you for a second while you let me get this source out. The source is www.donaldjtrump.com/agenda47. The source is his website, Rich. It's not an unknown source. You can unmute now.
Donald Trump is not running for president, King.
Why did he put that on his website then?
It's a violation
Why
of the
did he
Constitution.
put that on his website?
It's wrong for him to violate the
I
Constitution
agree, but he doesn't
just like
care.
anyone else.
So why did he put it on his website?
Because reforms are needed.
No, he's not asking for reform.
He's going to
I'm telling-
fight to pass legislation just like every other president.
Is it reform? Is it reform? Is the reform needed to fix our elections? That the
There's a
president gets-
reform needed
Wait,
for
Rich,
everything.
That's the middle of my question. Is the reform we're looking for elections that the president be able to decide whether or not we investigate elections? Is
It's
the
going to
reform
be
we
the
need?
president who fights for the legislation
Rich, you go out of
that
your
will
way
be
to not
passed
answer
by
questions,
multiple
and
branches
it's
of
starting-
government.
Like it's coming off a little cowardly. So I'm going to ask again. Is
Because
that the
you're taking
reform-
his words out of
no,
context.
I'm taking the words in context. It's a video of Donald Trump
You're
saying
being
it
intellectually
on his
dishonest.
website. You haven't read it. This is on his website. It's also in Project 2025. He is
Project
running on this.
2025 is unwinding big government.
Well, through fascism.
No, it's
No,
not
it's,
through
it's
fascism.
much more than that. It's not
Through
unwinding
fascism
big
is
government.
silencing
It's
your
it's a
opposition and
social
labeling them all
engineering project,
racist.
Rich.
That's
Rich,
fascist.
Big government shouldn't be determining that children can only be in households with a mommy and a daddy. It's much more than unwinding big government. No one has a problem with unwinding big government. The problem is when they're trying to social engineer families.
Nope, they're giving state rights.
Okay,
That's it.
you have
That's
no
it.
Wait,
idea.
hold on.
They're
Why
bringing-
did I
they're
know
bringing
at some
all the
point he was
social
gonna yell
issues down to
states'
the-
rights,
Rich,
brother. It's
States'
like
rights.
unreal.
Rich, out of
Believe it or
curiosity,
not, The
Rich,
federal
out of
government
Rich,
is not in the business of
Rich,
making social issues for the masses.
Rich, out of curiosity, did
We
you
are
also
agreeing on the same thing, Rich, but you don't know what the Republican Party is advocating for then.
No,
Because I
you're
completely
you're
agree.
pretending
Rich, the
to be the
Republican
Republican Party is
Rich, the
something
Republican
else.
Party should not be in the doctor's office with me telling me what medical procedures I can
And
get.
they're
That's
not.
big government. Rich, your party, you are
They're not.
absolutely delusional, or like you said, you're intellectually dishonest. It's one or the other.
They took away the federal government's power to impose its will on the masses. That's it. That was the reversal of Roe v. Wade. Roe
Wait,
v.
what?
Wade
Wait,
made 9
Rich,
people
Rich, wait,
force
hold
their
on.
opinions on 50
Rich,
states.
Rich, wait.
Why are
Did,
all of your
Rich,
demands unconstitutional?
Rich, be quiet for a second. If I say Rich 1,000 times, could you please stop? Roe v. Wade basically allowed for abortion up through the first trimester. Did Roe v. Wade force anyone to get an abortion? And I have a follow-up, so I just would like a yes or no on this.
It forced abortion legality in every county across America.
He said yes or no.
Did it force anybody to have an abortion?
And it also opened the door
did it
for
force
government-funded
Rich,
abortion.
Rich, don't be a coward. Answer the
No,
question.
it doesn't force anyone to get an
Okay,
abortion.
it doesn't.
Of course not. That's a ludicrous question.
So what
I
it
just
did,
pass over the ludicrous
So
question.
what it did, Rich, is it made it so that people could have a choice. Only during the first trimester, by the way. It still took away the choice for women after the first trimester. But it basically said in the first trimester, the government doesn't get to decide whether or not a woman can have an abortion. And the overturning of that said, we now think that the federal government doesn't have the right, but the state governments can choose what a woman can do with their body. You didn't decrease the size of government. You expanded.
No, I hate that.
It's an
I
expansion
hate that
of
anybody.
government. That's what
I
it
hate
is.
that anybody is telling women what to do.
Okay,
But
well, it's your party that's
I
telling them what
especially
to
hate
do.
Your party
federal
is
government
expanding
doing it.
government, Rich. Your party
I
is expanding
especially hate
government.
the federal government doing it.
But you don't care if it's the state
And that's the
government
point you're
doing it?
missing.
But do you care if it's the state government doing it?
No.
Why?
No, we should amend the Constitution
To what? To say what?
to make women's health choices a right nationwide.
Okay, then why are
Roe
you
v.
voting
Wade
for
was
Republicans?
a lazy way about going. Roe v. Wade was a court's opinion.
Wait, so
It was
you think
never going to
women-
hold up. Ruth
Right, so-
Ginsburg said so.
Let me make sure I've got this. So you think women should be able to have the right to do with their bodies what they choose, and the government gets no say, and you are voting for
Absolutely.
and you're voting for Republicans.
Amazing, isn't it?
It is because
Against everything
Republicans
you've been
but
told.
Because Republicans don't agree with that. Republicans think that the
Because
government
that's what
should
you
have a
say.
say in what
That's what
women
you've
do with
been
their
told.
bodies. No,
That's what
they
you say all day to people. That's what your
that's what-
projection is.
Excuse me. I watch the fucking Republican debates. Excuse me. I see the legislation coming out in Republican states. Excuse me. I read about the abortion bans in Texas, red state, Kentucky, red state, Tennessee, red state.
So because you watched a
Where's
few
the abortion
debates,
bans coming out
you've
of blue
labeled
states, my
millions
friend?
of American
Which blue
citizens.
state, my friend, is putting in abortion bans?
You've
Blue
labeled
state.
millions
Which blue state,
of
my
Americans
friend?
based
Which
on a
blue
few
state,
debates
my
you
friend?
watched.
Which blue state, my friend, is trying to control women's bodies?
Excuse me?
Which blue state is banning abortion?
I don't know. I don't know of any
Which
state
red
that's
states are
banning abortion. Are they banning abortion? I mean,
Well,
that's
do you
that's
know
up
who-
to the
do you
state,
know
right?
the
That's
story-
the state right.
Do you know
If
the
you
story?
don't like what
Yeah,
your
well,
state
that's
is
what I
doing, you
said.
got to vote
So
against
you
the leadership.
support the state's right to tell a woman to do,
Yeah.
to dictate what a woman
That's
does
what
with
he's
her
saying.
body. You
I
support
don't.
Rich
the
doesn't want the
government-
federal
Yes, you do.
government to tell women what to do. He wants the state
I don't
government
want-
to tell women what to do. Like, it's unbelievable.
I don't
But
want
he's
the
for small
federal
But a
government-
government can tell women what to do in their doctor's offices. Like, it's
Because
wild.
the
You
state is
contradict
different than the
yourself at
federal
every turn.
government. The state is a small
No,
bureaucracy
if
that
you're
you can
giving
fight.
libertarian, you try
and
to
you
come up
can
here talking about how
change,
taxation
and you
is
can
theft.
escape.
If you want small government, then at no point should any government be in the doctor's office with any of us. Period.
I agree. I do agree. You'd be amazed that I do agree.
Yeah, but then you vote for Republicans. So it seems that's why we're struggling, because you're like, I agree with that, but I support Republicans.
Well, I agree on a lot of liberal leaning things, but
Okay,
that
but
doesn't
do you
mean
think
that doesn't mean I want to empower a corrupt
okay,
government.
what's more important than keeping the government out of your medical decisions? What are the things you're voting on that are more important that you're saying, okay, I'll vote for Republicans even though they're going to try and control women's bodies because of these issues? What are the important issues to you that make you overlook that one?
Just sustainable policy all around.
That doesn't mean
Whether it be
anything.
the border,
I'm asking for
whether it be
something
taxes,
specific.
whether it be spending, whether
Let's
it be energy
specific.
policy.
Let's pick one
What-
of them. Let's pick one of them.
Pick anyone you want.
Okay, let's talk about government spending. Donald Trump spent more in his presidency pre-COVID than any other president in 4 years. Before COVID, Donald Trump was the highest spending president in history, and he cut taxes.
That's actually so wrong. I don't know where you guys get your
That's not
information
the end
from.
of
It's
my
scary.
sentence, Rich. That's not the end of my sentence. I've let you talk. He spent more than any other president, and he cut taxes, which means he brought in less revenue, which is why deficit spending increased under Donald Trump. Even before COVID, deficit spending was increasing. Under Joe Biden and under Obama, deficit spending decreased. The percentage of our deficit spending went down every
We got a $2 trillion a year
single
deficit,
year.
dude. What book are you reading?
What did you just say?
We have a $2 trillion a year deficit under Biden. Whose book are you reading?
These aren't books, my friend. This is
Donald
completely
Trump
fun.
cut
This is
taxes.
Wait, we
Sir,
don't have a. We don't.
let-
I think you
now
don't
it's my
understand.
turn to talk,
You
right?
don't understand. No, because you don't understand the difference between deficit.
Oh, because I don't understand. Because now
Well,
here's
I
another
wasn't
one of
done.
your
I wasn't
projections
done. Rich,
that
Rich,
everyone
I'm-
who
What's the
opposes you
deficit?
is
Rich,
stupid.
Rich, I'm talking about deficit spending, not the debt.
What's the deficit?
Sorry, Jen muted. Jen, don't mute on this one. Sorry, Rich. You can unmute. Do you understand the difference between our national debt and deficit spending?
I was just going to explain to you how tax cuts through Donald Trump was
But
not
I'm
government
the question
spending.
the question I'm asking is, do you understand the difference between deficit spending?
Yes,
and
I do.
Okay, what's the difference?
Deficit is after all the bills are paid, what's left? How much debt we've accumulated?
No, that's
and
the debt.
opposed
No,
to
that's
our
debt.
income.
No, deficit.
No, it's
is
how much the government takes in and how much goes out and how much extra is left, because what we have is deficit spending each year
Right.
accumulating,
and
it's $2 trillion a year added to
under
the national
Donald
debt.
Trump. Did it go up every single year?
Yeah, because of tax
And-
cuts. He couldn't couple
Yeah,
tax cuts.
yeah,
He couldn't couple
exactly.
tax cuts with government spending
Yeah.
less. Right?
Yeah, so-
you have to cut
yeah,
government
wait,
while you
hold
cut
on.
taxes.
Hold on. So if
Holy
you,
shit,
like-
is that amazing?
Yeah, no,
That's not
it
the
is
government.
because
So
yeah,
when the
because-
government
Amazing, because he
Rich,
didn't
Rich,
do that.
Rich,
Yeah.
if you
When
in your
the-
Rich, if you in your personal life took on more debt every year and made less money every
I
year,
cut
which-
spending.
listen. If you
Amazing.
listen, Rich, if you
I'll answer the
increased
question before you answer it.
Well, then shut the fuck up and let me answer it or ask it, please. Like, good lord, dude, this is crazy. If you in your personal life increased your spending and made less money, would that be a good thing or a bad thing?
It's a bad thing.
Okay. Now, did Donald Trump cut spending or did he increase spending?
He increased spending and cut taxes.
Okay, so he cut revenue, so he
Two
brought in
negatives
less,
for the
So
deficit.
yeah.
But tax cuts are an investment. Take that smile off your face.
In what? In more debt?
In the people.
Brother, no, that's like saying that you took a job making less money and it was an
It's the
investment in
government-
the future. What are
It's
you
the
talking
government
about?
taking less of what everyone earns.
Right, but
You're allowing
right,
people
but the
to
government
keep
has
more of what
bills
they
to
earn. That's a
pay.
tax cut.
The government has
That's not
bill- I know
government
what a
writing
tax
people
cut
checks.
is, my friend.
It's
I'm
not
asking you
government
about fiscal
spending.
responsibility.
It's the government taking less.
Yes, and that means that we can't pay our bills.
That means it's a shot to the economy, which is an investment. Yes.
It's a shot to the
Allowing
economy,
people to
meaning
keep
it's
more
an
of what they
investment
earn
in
lets
what?
them
What?
spend,
Wait, what are you
right?
Doesn't
It
even
lets
make
them
sense.
spend
in
money.
what?
It
Wait,
lets them
Rich,
invest
Rich,
money. It
Rich,
lets them
an
buy a
investment in
home.
what? Rich, an investment in what?
In the economy.
We're in, wait, an investment in
When the
economy?
government takes money out of the economy, it just vanishes. It doesn't come back. When did trickle down through the fingers of bureaucrats
Yeah, that's
ever
the
work?
problem. It doesn't trickle down, right? It trickles up.
It doesn't trickle
and then
down
it's
through bureaucrats.
It doesn't trickle down at all, which is why
When
we
you
saw
allow
it
me
all.
to keep more of
that's
my
the
money,
problem.
it
That's
trickles
the
to the
problem with the
store.
tax cuts.
No, it
right?
trickles to
It
the
trickles to
rich.
the bill collector.
Let me ask you this question, Rich. You believe that the government's corrupt, right?
We all should.
Okay, I agree with you. The government's corrupt, and who is pulling the strings of the government?
Probably big corporations,
Big corporations,
right? Not
So-
every corporation. There's
I agree.
mega corporations,
So
right? The big
I
ones.
agree with you. Big corporations, the billionaire class, right?
Yep.
Okay. So can you explain to me how Republicans say that the government is the problem, and Democrats say the billionaires are the problem? You just agreed with us. The billionaires are the problem. They're running the government. And yet every time we bring up the fact that we want to go after the people that are actually running our government, you guys get tricked into thinking that we mean socialism and that higher taxes for billionaires will hurt you. Every time we try and solve the problem that you agree is the actual problem, you guys get tricked into thinking that means we're communists.
Because you
won't
believe-
you
you get
won't let
tricked.
our country
You
solve
get
the
tricked.
problem. The problem is the billionaire class running the government,
Hold on,
controlling
hold on. The
everything,
quick answer,
and you
quick
won't let
answer.
us go after them.
You can't. You don't even have
keep
to.
telling
You don't
us
even
that
have
we
to
can't
go
raise
off.
their taxes. We
Hold
can't
on.
force them to pay
Perspective,
better.
my
We
friend,
can't force them to
perspective.
trickle that money down. They must
Perspective.
have that money, and you guys are just going to keep pointing at the government like that's going to fix a goddamn thing. You're pointing at the
Listen.
leak. We're trying to fix it, and you're like, you can't fix that leak.
No, you've
Yes.
you've been convinced that rich people are the problem
You
when
just
it should
said that. We
when
just agreed
listen,
on that, Rich.
listen,
We just agreed that the
listen,
billionaires
listen.
are running the country.
Listen, can I finish my sentence? I got out 2 words. You believe that rich people are the problem,
Billionaires,
and I
not rich.
believe
No, Rich.
I
Rich,
No,
believe-
Rich,
stop
you don't
saying
get to change
that.
my
Oh my
argument.
God.
Rich, you don't get to change my argument. My argument is the billionaire class that own the corporations are running our government. Not rich people, not some guy who makes 10 million a year, not some guy who has a net worth of 200
Why
million,
isn't the problem-
not somebody who makes $1 million a year. I'm talking about the billionaire class that you won't let us go after.
Why is the fact that our politicians are for sale not the problem?
It is the problem, but the
Okay.
problem is they're not writing
Then
the
it
laws.
doesn't matter how
going-
many people
so
are
pointing
rich.
at them, Rich. So you're pointing
Yes,
at the
that
leak,
is
we're pointing at
delusional.
the cause. We are trying to take care of the cause. You are looking at the effect, and no matter what you say, no matter how many times you go, the government is corrupt, it's not going to change anything until we go after the billionaires. But you guys won't let
Oh
us.
my, that's such ass backwards argument. I never
What
heard
the
such
fuck are you
something
It's
more
not,
The
ridiculous.
problem is the
Rich,
billionaires. How is
it
it
makes
backwards?
perfect
to
We're
go
gonna
sense.
after the
bankrupt
billionaires?
everyone
You
so they
don't-
can't afford politicians.
Rich wants to. Listen, this is what it is, Rich. The symptom. You want to go after a symptom. A symptom is
No,
okay.
you're going
people are
after
being
the
bribed.
symptom.
You want to go after the people who are being bribed, not the people who are bribing them. Like, think about what you're
No, you-
saying. That doesn't
you have to
make
stop
any
government
sense, Rich.
from being-
Stop being scared. We
Oh my
all
God.
agree on what the problem is. The government is being corrupted by billionaires' money, right? That's what's happening. So we need to stop that from happening, and we need to stop money from being
Politicians are
concentrated
getting
at the
too
top
cozy
of,
in
at
their
the top of the
oversight
economy. We
position.
need to, and it's not even just tax. We need to incentivize, right? It doesn't even have to be. We need to tax them, and we need to incentivize them to reinvest money, right? Because the trickle down, just saying, "Oh, let's not tax them at all, and they'll reinvest," it's not happening.
Felice,
Rich.
the
It's not
government spent
happening.
$6.8 trillion
money isn't
last
being
year.
reinvested
Where
into
did
the
it trickle down to?
What?
Where did
Oh
$6.8
my good Lord
trillion
Jesus.
last
What
year
does
trickle
that have
down
to do
to?
with what are you? That's what we're trying to say. What
No,
are
you're
you
not.
listening to the conversation?
You're not. You want to end
Are you listening?
people. You want to end success because
No,
it
we
buys
don't-
politicians
Rich,
instead
Rich,
of
you're out
ending
of your mind.
politicians being bought.
Rich, yeah, we do need to end wealth inequality in this country, right? There's a difference between someone making 6 times more than the average employee in a company and someone making 366
Why do you ignore that the
times
government
more.
spent
We
$6.8
absolutely
trillion
need to do something
last
about
year,
wealth
more than every
inequality.
corporation in America?
Because, Rich,
Let-
let me tell you why we're ignoring it. Because we understand that if we want to fix this problem, we need to stop the people who are writing the laws. And the people who are writing the laws, Rich, are not these bureaucrats in the government. They are actually the billionaire class and their lawyers writing laws, sitting in the same room as these bureaucrats. They write a law, they leave it with a check. They say, here's your money, here's the law, go ahead. Nobody in this country, no individual, whether you are in the government or a private citizen, should have that much control over the law. So, Rich, we
Do you
agree
think the
hold
government
on,
is
hold
gonna
on, hold on. I
bankrupt
wasn't
their
done, Rich.
donors?
I wasn't done, Rich. I wasn't done. We agree with you that these people in government are comfortable and that they're just doing what they're told and that they're getting wealthy off of their jobs and that they just follow whatever the bureaucrats tell them. We have been pointing at that collectively on the left and the right. This is something everybody agrees with, that the government is doing this. I know that you guys think that we don't care, but we care that the government is corrupt. However, we know that the only reason they're corrupt is because they're getting money. And where are they getting money? From the billionaires. So we think that the best solution is to go after the billionaires because we don't have the power to convince our legislators to stop taking money from the billionaires. We don't think we can do that because we've been trying it forever. They won't do it. So what we have to do instead is we have to put in enough progressive politicians, and hopefully you guys will go along with us, that we can put laws on the books that say billionaires, people with a net worth of $250 billion, $300 billion, should not be able to accumulate that wealth off of the backs of the working class. Because when they accumulate that wealth, they accumulate power. And now you have 2 or 3 people who can, like, if a billionaire wants to change the law, they can with one phone
Outstanding.
call and one check. You and I can't do that. So that's who we need to go after. We need to force them to spread their wealth around so that we can lift the poor out of poverty, so the middle class can grow again, and so that 10 people with big checkbooks don't run our country anymore.
So we need to empower the people who are already corrupted with the ability to bankrupt successful people.
No, that's not
And
even
this is
close.
gonna help the
Rich,
poor,
that's not what I'm
even
advocating
though-
for. Rich, I'm not advocating for that. No, stop.
That's what you just said.
No, Rich,
the government
I'm advocating
needs
to
cap.
No, I'm not. I am advocating taxes.
So you're advocating for the government to confiscate more, even though
Yes.
it's not sharing its prize already.
Yes, I am advocating that the government confiscate money
delusional.
through taxes from the billionaire class who built that wealth off of the backs of the working class
And where
the
did-
poor. And it is an inequitable
God.
position. It is anti-capitalism. It is crony capitalism. It is fake capitalism. It is everything that
I
we've been
agree.
warned. Okay, then help us fix it.
I'm trying.
No, you're not. You keep pointing at the left saying, you guys want more
I'm not
control,
pointing at
and
the
you're gonna
left.
vote
You're
for people-
literally getting God, Rich.
Donald
So
Trump
listen,
was
I'm
in a
pointing-
room.
I'm
Donald
pointing
Trump
at
was
the
in a-
left.
Donald Trump was in a room
Oh my God.
of billionaires and the millionaire donor class, and he told them specifically.
weeks
This was
ago.
2 weeks ago. He specifically told them, "Don't worry, I'm going to cut your taxes." So yeah, I'm not going to get on board with that. They have plenty of money, and giving them a tax break does not lift the middle class. It doesn't lift the poor. We've done this for 50 years now. It doesn't fucking work. But you and your party, you don't have any new ideas, so you just keep saying like, "Oh, well, everything's the Democrats' fault, but when we get in office, we're just going to cut taxes." And guess what happens? Under Donald Trump, the rich got richer, the poor got poorer.
The rich
and
are
the middle
always gonna
class
get
no
richer,
longer
my
has
friend.
the buying power that they used to have. It didn't
The-
work.
the
They
rich
are
are
if we
always
listen,
gonna-
Rich. If you sit there and keep voting for the Republican Party, they absolutely are.
Because
That's-
listen to your arguments don't
They
stand
absolutely
water.
are. No, Rich.
They don't hold water,
Capitalism
man.
requires unlimited exponential resources that we are running out of, right?
I don't understand
Rich,
how
you, me, Jay, stop talking when I'm talking. We are all on the same team, right? As long as we are all working 50, 60, 70 hours a week and we are handing that surplus of our work to capitalist overlords, to billionaires for them to live off of, that is the definition of slavery. We are still in slavery. They are still kings and queens and we are still working for them. That's what we're talking about. That's what wealth inequality is doing. And
It's
if you
so
keep
it's
voting for the Republican Party, yes, nothing's going to change. And let me just say what you were saying. No, the Democratic Party is not perfect. We need we need more than just two parties, and there's corruption on both sides. But the Democratic Party, right? What we need to do is elect progressive candidates that want to tax the wealth from the top of the economy and recirculate it. Right? We are all on the same team, whether you want to be or not. Unless you're a billionaire, Rich, in secret, the three of us are on the same team.
we're on the same team for sure, 100%, and we're so close to unifying the message here because but my problem is that somehow all of the solutions seem to be empowering government.
No, but Rich, this is what we were
It's like
trying to
all
say.
of it.
This is what we were trying to say is literally nothing that the left currently is advocating for is giving the government more power. The big issues for us on the left right now, we're talking about we want to give women the right to choose. That means the government has less power. That means we take away their power. We think that everybody in the LGBTQ community should have the same rights as all of us. Again, that means less power. We don't think the government should be banning books. Again, that's less power. We don't believe that the government should be influenced by giant corporations. Again, less power. We think the government should be accountable to us. And in order for the government to be accountable to us, we have to remove the arm of the government, the unseen arm of the billionaire class who pulls all the levers. And if you just look at this, forget left versus right, Republican versus Democrat, do you think the billionaires are going to vote, or do you think the billionaires are happier when somebody cuts their taxes or increases their taxes?
Of course, they're happy when they cut their
Cuts
taxes.
them, right?
Everybody's
So-
happy when your
Right.
taxes are cut.
So what are they
Poor
going to do?
people are happy when their taxes are
So
cut.
yeah. So what are they going to do? They're gonna keep advocating that their taxes get cut, and they're going to give money to those who will cut their taxes. And the Republicans are the party who are saying we are going to cut the taxes of the billionaire class. And the Democrats right now are the party saying we need to tax the fuck out of these people. And again, it's the billionaire class. It's the ultra wealthy, the people who can never spend the amount of money that they've accumulated. And we're just simply saying our economy was designed for currency to flow through it and continuously flow. But the reason it's not working is it all flows to the top, and then we run out of money on the bottom levels, and our government is forced
There's no
to
way.
print. Our government is forced to print more money and inject it. We could either stop, if we want to stop printing money and injecting it, we've got to pull the money down from the top. Again, your party is not advocating for you. I'm a former Republican. I've done this. Your party is advocating for the wealthy. Nothing your party is advocating for will benefit you. None
I
of
don't
it.
support banning books. I support
But your
age-appropriate
party,
curriculum.
I understand. The thing is you sound like you agree with most of what we say, and that's why we're confused, because everything we say you agree. We shouldn't ban books. We shouldn't tell
Same
women
thing.
what to do with their body. We shouldn't control the LGBTQ community. But then you go and vote for people who are advocating that they get to control that, and that's why it's confusing to us, because you say these things, but then you don't vote that way.
Because I can't empower the government that I see as corrupt.
Either way, you're empowering the government. No
I
matter
don't
how you
believe-
vote, unless you're no matter how you vote, you're empowering the government to have power. It doesn't matter how
No,
you vote.
because
So
I've-
why don't you vote for
I've
the
witnessed-
people who? Wait, but our party's advocating for the government to have less control. You say you want less control, and you're voting for the party that wants more control. It make sense, Rich. It
Tax
makes no
cuts is
fucking
less
sense.
control. Less
What?
government spending is less
It's not-
control.
Wait, no,
less
it's not less
government
control.
control over medicine and education is less control.
Wait, a tax cut is not less control.
That's giving more control to billionaires. I mean,
I guess
To
you're
people.
Let's give you tax credit. Let's give you tax cuts.
Forget
Let's
about
say that-
billionaires.
Let's say tax cuts are more government control or taking away government
Less.
control. Okay, let's just say that. That's the one thing. Every other thing we've named today that is the Democrats saying let's have less control. So you're choosing the tax break. That's the only thing that's important to you, is that billionaires get a tax break, and you're cool with
Nope.
women not having a say over their body, the
No,
LGBTQ.
I'm not cool with
Well,
it.
then
I'm
how
not
are
cool
you
with a
voting
lot of
for
things.
Republicans?
because I have to pick the lesser two evils.
That's
Do I
what
want
I'm
an
asking. So
empowered
you're
government?
saying that the lesser of
I
two
can't
evils
empower
is
the corrupt
so
any
you're
longer.
saying that the lesser of two evils is the group that wants to take only the power of taxing billionaires away versus the party that wants to take the banning books away, that wants to take the control over women's body, that wants to go after LGBTQ rights, like
The threat I
that
see.
wants to increase funding for the poor, that wants to lift people out of poverty by giving them health care.
They're not lifting
that
shit.
party, the party that wants way less government control on all these levels, you're not going to vote for them because your party wants less government control on exactly one level, and that's
No,
just
because the
taxes.
government has promised to solve all of these problems for 60 years.
No, you're running. You're running from this answer, and I think you know that you're running from this
The
answer.
government has promised to fix
No, you're not
these
answering my question,
problems
so I'm
for
not going to let you
60
say
years.
it. No, we have people waiting in the box. I appreciate. Just think about that. You can come
Just
back
think
anytime.
about that.
You can
60
just, you
years
can come
we've
back,
heard these
you can come back
promises.
anytime, but just think
60
about the
years.
fact that you agreed with us on everything except for taxes, and you are voting solely on the idea that the government should tax
I
billionaires
disagree
less.
on
That
a
is your
government solving
number
problems
one
when it
Which
has
only
60
gives
years
them
of
more
unkept
power.
promises. Have a great day.
It's almost like that made no sense.
It never does. And I don't think he really does care about a woman. Well, let's be honest. He doesn't care about a woman's right to choose. He doesn't care about the LGBTQ community. He just knows that if he says that, it makes him look more sane.
Well, yeah, because all that stuff is like in there disguised as something that it's not. You know that, RT, because you're smart.
It sounds like you're a really long ways away from your mic, bud.
What about now?
Not great.
All right, I'll jump off and try to jump back in. My bad.
Sure.
I can't hear him at all.
Yeah, I could barely hear him.
Okay, because I was like, I don't even know who you're talking to.
Oh, are you seeing people as they pop up? This is Chip Barnes.
No, yeah, I see him. Yeah.
Okay. Welcome, Chip.
Thank you so much for letting me come up. I'm a pretty regular live caster too, so I appreciate you doing this conversation. So I wanted to just ask a question, and then I wanted to follow up after you answer, if that's okay.
Talking to me or Felice?
Either of you, I'll just put it out to both of you. So
Okay.
I'm 56. I've been very politically active my whole life. I've actually worked on campaigns before. I have a friend that was in Congress. So I have a little bit of inside knowledge of how the game's played. Here's my question to both of you. What if no matter which party we vote for, which candidates at the congressional level or even in the presidency, what if nothing fundamentally will change economically or from a foreign policy standpoint? There are some social issues that will change. And then one other question, which party takes more corporate money nowadays? Those are my two questions for both of you.
The first question is, what if nothing fundamentally changes? Like, are you saying in an election cycle?
Well, in other words, in terms of elected officials, if there's if quote unquote the existing power structure of lobbying, corporate personhood, money is speech, all the different competing business interests, the donor class, and the national security state, with that control system in place, how will voting for different people to come into the same mud pit change anything?
It's a good question. So I think the answer is some of your votes won't change anything, but when you have the opportunity to vote for somebody who you believe will not go in and take part of the mud pit, you vote for that person, and then you have to be vocal and you have to hold people accountable. But I think that like it actually ties to your second question. It ties to funding, right? That's what happens. I do believe that a lot of people get into politics and believe that they're going there to do well, and then they get there. They're just everyday people. They're surrounded by lawyers, politicians, billionaires, and they I think oftentimes are swayed into voting for shit that they probably shouldn't because they're easily swayed. You have a friend that's in Congress, or was in Congress. I also have a couple friends who have held office. In my experience, those aren't the smartest people I knew, for sure. I don't know if that's the case with you as well.
He was a very intelligent guy, and also he just couldn't take the pressure from the special interest and the party structures. He bowed out. The other thing I wanted to mention, I did ask about who gets the most corporate money, but let's backburner that for a second. So, is it possible, just in the range of possibility, is it possible that if electoral politics, because the term I always like to use is, for example, let's say the Republicans are wearing a beige outfit and the Democrats are wearing a white outfit, and either one jumps into this mud pit because the party structure and all those other variables I mentioned. How can either of them keep from getting a dirty uniform, no matter who you put in?
I mean, you can't, dude. It's our government is not set up in a way that you are always going to vote for something that works for everybody. You're going to have pork spending. You're gonna have to compromise. Like that's how we were set up to work. Like bills are never going to be perfect. Every bill is a compromise. You're going to get buddy in there. I mean, but that's everything. Like you could say that about going to work. Like how do you know that none of the money coming through your company was acquired fraudulently? How can you as a CEO, and if you're making 300 times the amount of money that your average employee is making, like are you not part of the mud pit yourself? And are the employees part of the mud pit because they chose to work there and they didn't choose to work at a different place? Like you can make this analogy about everything. Like the world is muddy. There's
But I think in
nuance,
terms
there's
of
gray area.
the impact on the citizenry, because an individual corporation or company or small business affects the employees of that business or the relationship that business has to that marketplace or that sector. But in terms of the general public, which obviously the governing structure and the power structures affect the average person, either positively or negatively, my argument would be, and I've stayed on this for about 25 years now, is that because of the power structures that control the way the elected politicians function, they have little latitude with what they do, including the president, by the way. Now, there
Yeah.
are some issues they can bring to bear. They can
No.
affect social issues, Supreme Court, appointees, that kind of thing. But here's my question to you. If it turns out, just accept this as a premise, if it turns out that we can't elect our way out of our problems, are you aware of any other path to affect change?
There's a lot of different paths to. I mean, you could do what
It's
Donald
like
Trump
the
is trying to
age-old
do, and
reform versus
yeah,
revolution
yeah,
argument,
have
that's like deep within socialism. Like, can the system be reformed, or is
Yeah.
revolution required? I'm like
Somebody says in the
of
comments,
the
Shelly
like
says,
sort of
Shelly says in the comments, what's his point? So I'll just share that. Sorry to jump in on you there. You're making the good point too.
would you mind just allowing Felice to finish her answer
Yeah,
first?
please. I'm sorry. I'll
Thanks.
mute myself.
No, that's fine. I was just going to say, I mean, it is the age-old argument. I mean, I think it happens on the left and right, but I'm more involved in like the progressive socialist, democratic socialist side of it is reform versus revolution. Like I personally see reform as sort of dress rehearsals almost for revolution. But the problem with reform, and if something can be reformed, a law can be changed within this system by voting or however it's done, through Congress. The problem is it can be unreformed, right? It can be changed back. And in the end, will this drive us towards revolution? I mean, I think that when we look at operating within capitalism and late stage capitalism, and as scarcity occurs in in this capitalist marketplace, the answer will move towards revolution. I also believe, I mean, I think as a history major, like all of this stuff happening, coinciding is very indicative of late stage capitalism. Like the move to fascism and authoritarianism happens because scarcity in the marketplace creates so much unrest in the general public, in the workforce, right? That revolution becomes an option in their minds, and that's when control is clamped down upon. So yeah, I understand the argument and where you're going with it. Like I think people are very uncomfortable in the middle of this country, like having the conversation that like we might not be able to vote really hard out of this issue. So I understand the sentiment.
Now, I think this is one point I want to raise. I think we're conditioned from pretty much our early years to understand the civics and the system and the representative democracy concept. But I think the moneyed class, the donor class, and all those other interests that I mentioned earlier, they have figured out a way to co-opt this system to their advantage, such that the constituents rarely, if ever, even if there's a huge percentage of the population that agrees on a certain piece of legislation or a certain rule in society, for example, reasonable gun background checks or something like that, the interest groups are able to overcome the popular, desires because they control the political dynamics and the power structure. And the party leadership are the implementers and sort of the whips that whip everybody into shape. So my argument is you could snap your fingers tomorrow morning, get rid of every Republican, every Democrat, replace them with 535 new people, and the same power structure will co-opt the process because it's not going anywhere. And that wealthy class is not going to leave this situation willingly. So my question is, if that's the case, and somebody says, where am I going with this? I believe firmly, I don't like to call it revolution. I like to call it organizing. And so just like the workers at a company have to organize and kind of ride out the strike, we as people the company is our governing and the power structure. We're going to have to figure out a way to organize, decentralize, have premises for progressive escalatory tactics. Hopefully they stay nonviolent. And we have specific demands that 99% of people can agree upon that are in the working class. That's the only path, in my opinion. That probably won't even work. But talking about this left-right stuff, Trump versus Biden, it's a ruse. I think we're distracted and keeps us from getting together and doing the right thing.
Well, yeah, it's when you think about what does the working class, like when I was yelling at that last guy, we're all on the same team. Stop yelling, like we are all on the same team. Essentially, it's like whether or not we realize it. You're right. The right versus left is a tiresome argument because what we need to look at is stopping the concentration of wealth at the top of the economy or reversing it. And how do we do that? Like, what do we have control over? We could strike.
Yeah, there's
We could stop working. That's one of the only
Yeah,
things as a mass group we have control over. We could stop working.
Yeah, Chip, I think, again, like this is the fundamental difference between what I view as the policies of people who would agree with me, like on the left versus the right, is that the right looks at the government and they say, government, you're the problem. We're gonna storm the Capitol, right? Or we're gonna march on a state house. The government is the problem. And then there are people that are more like me who I look at this year. You can look at what unions did to the auto workers. You can look at what the writers did to Hollywood. They are stepping up and they are saying like, hey, we have to work together to go after the billionaire class. Like the government's not going to help us because the billionaires own the government. So we're going directly after the billionaires. I think that the problem is for the last however many years, we keep looking at the government like the government is the problem. Now the government's part of the problem, but the actual problem is at the top. It's the billionaires. And being able to extract that wealth, we can do that without the government if we want to. But it takes coming together, working as unions. It would take Americans coming together and stopping like this left versus right shit. But honestly, like, do you see the right ever out there advocate like going after the billionaire class? No, they're bootlicking the billionaire class. Like it's weird, as a former libertarian, I see like most libertarians outside of a handful that actually understand what being a libertarian is, they are bootlicking the billionaire class too. They just say deregulate everything and things will go well. Things will be fixed. I think that the answer again is to rise up against the billionaires. Don't rise up against the government. The government is just a conduit for the billionaires. Rise up against the billionaires.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I think that there's two key things that are constitutionally enshrined now that make this very difficult because, again, the very system in which we have to change the laws to change the tax policy and change these other things legislatively, the same blocks are in place because of how they've co-opted the system. So the reform from within that, let's just say, for example, you magically got the tax policy to change, which I think is impossible. Let's just say you got it done. So the billionaires are having to contribute, let's say, half of their stated net worth and then another 10% per year until they get down to 10 million.
Wait, hold on though. That's not what I'm advocating.
Okay.
I'm saying you wanna fuck with Amazon? Everybody boycott. Don't go to work at Amazon. All the Amazon workers get together. Don't go to work. Force them to move that money down.
I think
again, you went back to the government, but I agree with you. It's really difficult to go to the government and lobby them to do something that's against their personal interests.
Exactly.
It's incredibly difficult, and I just don't think it's a very effective strategy. That's why I love what you've seen from these groups lately. Is they're like, fuck, like we're gonna bypass the government and we're gonna deal with these people directly, and we're gonna do so in mass, and that way they don't like. We now have leverage. An individual has no leverage against a billionaire, but if you take their entire company and turn that against the billionaire, well, suddenly you've got a lot of leverage because that company doesn't exist without those people. I think I think that when you talk about organizing and you talk about affecting change, that's where we need to go. And then if that winds up being popular, you'll see like the auto workers were on strike and suddenly There's all these Democrats coming out of the woodwork who haven't done shit to help unions for a long time, although they say they're pro-union. Suddenly, it's the popular thing to do, and they're supporting the legislation, and they're supporting the strikes, and they're talking about what they can do in their home states to make sure these types of things don't happen again, so there's protections for the workers. It was the workers revolting against the billionaire class that forced the politicians to act.
to get him on.
I don't
Yeah,
think it
and
goes the other way. I don't think you go to the politicians to get to the
yeah,
billionaires, because they're just going to act as a blockade, and they're going to say the same shit you do. They're going to say, and not that it's shit, you're right, but they're going to be like, oh, I'm just one person. This is Washington. It's a swamp. If I try and go against this, like, I'll have no more credibility. I won't pass any other bill, so I'm just going to be part of the swamp. We
And
have
look
to
at what
bypass
happened
that.
when the workers rose up against the billionaires. Like what happened with the two political parties, shameful political parties in this country, right? Biden showed up at the picket line. It was nothing, but it was a little something, right? He showed up at the UAW picket line. And what did Trump do? He went to a non-union shop, showed up there and railed against unions. There's only 6% of our privatized workforce in this country is represented by a union. 6%, 94% of us are fighting against the billionaire class individually ourselves. 6%. And Trump is trying to smash out that 6%. Like if we look at anything when we're voting, it should be they're not helping us. The Democrats aren't helping the unions, right? Except for the far left Democratic Socialists like AOC, like Ro Khanna, like them. But other than that, we really don't have anyone helping the unions. But they're not standing in the way, like Trump, literally standing there at a non-union shop, railing against workers who just want, to be paid closer to than 366 times what the CEO of General Motors is making. Like it's a crime. So yeah, I agree. That was well said,
And
Jay. I think
yeah, and
that workers have to go after the billionaires, and then hopefully the least corrupt of the politicians will follow suit.
Yeah, if we look at this and we look at who's the opposition to the workers' rights, to unions, it's going to be mostly people on the right, and they're going to be funded by corporations. And my friends, my business owner, like I owned a business, and all the owners of my business were really upset when we changed the minimum wage in Arizona, because we were paying $10 an hour. It was going to have to be $14 an hour. Like it was slowly going to move up, and we were upset by that. But it's so nearsighted, and this is what I think the Republicans have done a good job of, is they say, we have to put these rules in place so that it doesn't hurt small business. And even though it's directly, like, it's going to not impact the billionaires, we can't go after small business, so we can't put these guaranteed wages in place. However, what Republicans oftentimes don't realize is that because there are these lack of restrictions on them that allow them to pay cheap labor, those same restrictions by the billionaire class allow them to absorb any competition that ever comes their way. These low wages are actually allowing these corporations to decimate small business. And so it's such a short-sighted approach by those who are saying, like, oh, well, it'll hurt my small business. No, it won't. It will improve your small business. If you force these corporations to pay more, and they can no longer operate on razor thin margins, but because they have so much volume, they make it work. If their margins don't work anymore because they depend on essentially slave labor, those corporations fall, and that business falls to small businesses. Small businesses would be elevated. But somewhere along the line, and they've done a great job, this billionaire class has convinced an entire party that the only thing you can do is cut their taxes and cut their regulation because you have to help the middle class. And it's just not true. We have 50 years of data on it now, that when you deregulate, when you cut taxes, the people who benefit are at the top, and everybody else has gotten like more and more poor.
Yeah, it can be, and by the way, I mean, the things that I'm talking about, there can be people trying to reform from within, and there can be people trying to do some other organizing. But the three biggest tools, you mentioned two of them. The three biggest tools we have are our purchasing power. You mentioned that. We have our ability to organize together. We have sheer numbers, and then of course we have our labor. So those are our biggest tools that affect the system. So just think of a scenario like this for a second. It's going to have to be enough. Just like when you fight a war, if you go in and you have 20,000 soldiers against 300,000, you have a very low chance of winning. We have what, 335 million people in the country. Probably about 3,500 to 4,000 of the most wealthy controlling people, maybe 10,000. So a very small number of people. So if we organized 100 million people and blocked every port, every road, every highway, every train station, and stopped working and stopped buying shit, that would lock the whole thing up. And that's what it's going to take, in my estimation, to change something, because they can't
I
arrest
don't
and
think it
shoot.
takes that, Chip.
Well,
I don't.
it may
I
be.
think the threat of that happening, like it when you saw what happened with the auto workers. Now imagine that, like, the steel workers, and now imagine that tech workers see that and they start unionizing, knowing how that everybody knew how the autos workers strike was going to end. They were going to get more money because everybody understood where the leverage was. I didn't hear anybody saying that this is going to end with the auto workers going back to work with the exact same wages and the exact same benefits. What you need to do is create a movement, but that movement does not require you to go through every business. That movement needs to be significant enough that it strikes fear in the hearts of billionaires or that donor class, that they will be publicly embarrassed as well. That nobody wants that. Nobody wants that public embarrassment. That wasn't good for the auto manufacturers. If you have enough people standing up and going against a couple, if you went against Amazon, if you went against Facebook, Twitter, Microsoft, big oil, if you just had union workers, and specifically oil, if you had those workers in 5 different sectors stand up and unionize and demand that money be trickled down, that would create a domino effect across the country. I don't think you actually have to go into every business, every large business, and do this. I think the threat of it is enough to get people to change, and that threat, after you go after 5 or 6 massive corporations, I think that threat would be enough. I think then you can have change. I don't think it's as impossible as we make it sound like it is. Like, we're seeing a change already. The auto workers made a change. They have opened people's eyes to how much power they have.
Let's take your example. Let's say tomorrow morning we woke up and every single company that could get could get a better deal for the unionized workers, it's done. So now you're thinking that the corporations have thinner margins because of the increased labor costs. But the way they function and interact with the political system through which change is affected, other than grassroots, is still locked. Because you have money as speech, they still have a lot more of it to work with. Plus, you have other special interests, like we're seeing with the Israel lobby.
But what if your margins go from razor thin to net? But what if paying goes from razor thin to a negative?
It won't. It'll never happen, because big companies. Listen, let me. I don't mean to mansplain this, but let me just share with you my experience. I know people who work on Wall Street. Okay, they have the investor class has all the power. Capital has all the power. They will never. They'll shut down the entire company before they let you tilt the system. They're not going to acquiesce to labor on a broad scale. They're not going to.
They can keep that accumulated wealth.
It's true. I agree. I actually agree with Chip. I think you tend to see things like glass half full, but I think that, I mean, it's been long discussed. Like, I come from a tech industry background. Like, it's long discussed in the tech industry that they would shut down their own companies before they allowed the tech industry to be unionized. That's an agreement between tech.
What's wrong with that?
Nothing's wrong with that. I'm just saying, like you're saying, we just need to, like, convince them that the threat is there. I think
no, that's not what I'm saying.
They are well prepared to withstand and to burn things down, to not let the people rise up, because that would be the beginning of the end of the donor class. So, like, when he's saying it's going to take a full scale, hey, we need to stop working, we need to block ports and stuff. Like, I tend to agree more with that if it comes to that. Like, I don't know that threats like us saying, oh, well, look what happened with the auto workers. They didn't get that great of a deal. You know what I mean? And it quieted down after a while. I think it's going to have to get a lot louder, like there's going to have to be larger strikes. I mean, like, we're going to have to.
Yeah, I'm saying the same thing you are. But what if we had, if simultaneously we had workers striking against big oil, we had workers striking against big pharma, we had workers striking against the healthcare industry, we had workers. I think the biggest donor was like the home builders associations, or whatever, the Home Builders Guild, whatever they are. I think they spent the most money lobbying. You had people threatening to union in all of the biggest sectors: 4 or 5 sectors, and you actually started to unionize. Yeah, like some of those businesses cannot operate if you have a union. Some of them can, but that again, that trickles down to the middle class. I agree. Some of these businesses would shut down. That's great. Terrific. We start over. Like those businesses are going to be replaced by small businesses. That's what we're looking for. I don't want these corporations to continue to exist. And if they're going to continue to exist, they have to do it ethically, and most of them can't. That's a good thing.
How does that change the power structure that's in place right now? I know that weakened corporations would spur more smaller enterprise, but I think the part that's missing in the conversation is the acknowledgement of just how pervasive the control systems are, with money as speech, corporations having personhood. We got political action committees with dark money. We have a political system where the party structure is completely co-opted by the donor class, the national security state, and special interest groups. And some of these nips at the edges you're talking about, while great, it's like recycling to save the environment. It's not going to change the fundamental
Wait,
problem of industrial
well, it
society.
does because it changes who has the negotiating power. It changes who
It
can lobby
won't.
the government.
It won't.
Unions, no, powerful unions lobby the government all the time.
Yeah, it won't though, because look where we are.
Wait,
Look where
hold
we
on.
are.
What do you mean it won't? That doesn't make any
It won't.
sense.
It won't.
No, if Amazon unionizes, they would have a ridiculous amount of money that they could then lobby the government for.
I think you're missing the point again. Let's go back to the fundamental issue. You keep saying lobby the government. Okay, the apparatus from which change has occurred is through legislation. There are some abilities to do executive orders to an extent, but legislation is the process of changing the allocation of money and resources and the laws of the land at the federal level. That whole system has been completely bought and paid for. It's a mud pit into which you can throw the best people in the world in the cleanest of uniforms, and they come out in a problematic, dirty sense. If that doesn't change, none of the benefits of stripping the corporations of power will change in the end. That's the point I'm trying to make
Yeah,
to you.
yes, it does because who has the most power? The person with the most money, right?
The ultra billionaire class will never have a competitive process in Congress with people who scrape together union money. It's not enough.
If the union is the entire workforce, if you think that the union as an entire workforce is going to sit back and allow the CEO of that company or the owner of that company to then go lobby the United States government for
Yeah.
policies that hurt the union, and you
Well, yeah,
think the
they've
union's
been
just going to
they've been
stand? You think the union will
they've been
just
do-
stand by and allow that to
they've been doing
happen?
they've been doing it for 100
Okay,
years.
but now this is the thing. That's why the union gives you leverage that they haven't had before. Adding the union
No.
changes the dynamic. Again, the people are the ones who need the leverage. Right now, you're saying that the government is the only one with the leverage. If the people have leverage over both the business owner and they can collectively pool their money to lobby the government, then there's more. Then suddenly those people have a voice.
Yeah, I completely disagree with you. I don't think it's a bad thing to do what you're talking about, but it needs to be at a broader scale. And if you have Amazon and the UAW and let's say the Communication Workers of America all go on strike towards the intent you're talking about, then the unions can use. You have to convince the union leaders to use the money for lobbying then. So there's such a
You
high
don't have
climb.
to. No, you don't
It's
have
what I'm
to.
saying is it's not going to have the efficacy you believe it will have. I guarantee it.
You just keep saying I guarantee it, and
Will.
your proof for that is that that's how it's always been. But I'm advocating a system that we've never had before. You can't tell me that if the workers now have a union in every one of these corporations and they're demanding fair wages, they're demanding profit sharing, they're demanding that their labor be valued, then they now have the leverage. That leverage doesn't exist right now in our system. So you keep pointing back to a system that would fundamentally change if our union percentage went from 6% to 50%. That would fundamentally change our country. That would fundamentally change how corporations operate. That is giving the power back to the people. I don't understand how you can say that changing the power and giving the people more leverage wouldn't change anything. That makes no sense to me.
Because what you're missing is that the power dynamic that's in place has way more money than any of the changes you're
Doesn't matter.
talking
What
about
are they
being
going to
effective.
do? They're going to put in policies that
Hold
hurt
on.
their
Let
own
me- let me-
workers,
let
and
me-
then their
let me-
workers.
let me-
What are
let
the
me
workers
finish.
going
Let
to
me-
do?
Let me finish. Okay, so right now, if you follow the numbers, the candidates that have the most money to run their campaigns win 98% of the time.
Great.
So if more money can go to the people that they want to win, how are the unions who you think will change their finances and the demands you say they can make? They're still not going to have the power you claim they will.
Yes, they absolutely will, because if the person at the head of the company is lobbying Congress to allow them to accumulate more wealth and pay people less money so they can accumulate more wealth, then if they get that passed through Congress, now where's the check on Congress? It's the union. The union says, fuck you, we're not working for you anymore. We're on strike again.
No.
That's the check. The union is the check.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. I'm just letting you know that.
Well, it's a
Wait, stop.
reform.
You just
Like,
keep
let me
saying
say
that, but it
something.
does happen.
Well, let me
What
say
are you
something.
That's exactly what happens.
Unions
That's why
are like
unions
a
are
reform,
important
right?
Hold
to
on. Slow down,
check
slow down,
the
slow
owner.
down.
Unions are a reform, right? So like that, and that this is the age-old issue. Reform was essentially revolution or organizing, and like that's like the problem with unions is it is just a reform, and is it pervasive enough to break apart a system like you're saying, an entire governmental system that right now is steeped in like gross wealth, is being controlled by gross wealth. And when would that tipping point occur? And before that, would the unions be able to hold up? Would the strikes be able to hold up? Would they find workers from another source? There's many things that we can't know there. I tend to agree with Chip that like unions are a reform issue versus I think like we need to attack it from a union side, which is part of reform. But when you look at like, okay, organizing, what can we do? Then that's when Richard Wolff starts talking about and looking at the case studies of the Labour Party in Britain that's saying, hey, if a corporation wants to sell itself, offshore itself, or IPO, then we need to have a program, a government subsidized program that offers right of first refusal to the workers, like that they should be able to buy it using government subsidies and create a co-op so that workers now have equity in more companies. We have to fundamentally change the structure of companies so that cap and subsidize that change in the government so that we are creating a system where
most likely way
workers
to do
have
that?
more equity.
What's the most likely way to do that? By collectively bargaining as workers. That's the most likely way that you're going to affect that type of change. If
No,
you're
well, a
asking the
union
government
is not
to
a
put that into
co-op
place,
though. A
that's
union
not going
is.
to happen.
I'm talking about two different structure of company. Like a union's not is not a co-op though. That's a reform and a check
Wait,
against
hold on.
a company.
If you have a union and you negotiate that you own your own labor and that it is that you have first right of refusal if they offshore, like I'm saying that the unions should be the ones negotiating this because the government has shown time and time again that they won't. You guys keep thinking, like, I'm not saying reform versus revolution. I'm saying that the movement of unions is the revolution. It's the reform and the revolution. It's both. But like and maybe that does mean blocking ports. Maybe that does mean just walking off. Maybe that means all of this. But you need a structure and an organization behind those types of revolutions for it to work. You have to be unified. You have to have a unifying idea, and you have to have a unifying body, or the government will crush you.
Yeah, the bigger one, I think the bigger issue we're up against is there's a combined network of power forces that we're up against. So let's just say, for example, we get the unionization up from 6% to 25%, which, by the way, I think is next to impossible to effect because the companies will do anything and everything to crush it, and they have been. But let's just say in a magical world it happened. So we have 25% unionization. Is that enough of critical mass to slow the roll of the corporations having personhood, money being used as speech, and their ability to co-opt and control the system?
Well, it depends on who that 25% is.
I don't think
if
I
that
think it's a way-
25% is just giant corporations, like if all those people are from giant corporations, yeah, maybe it needs to be 30. Maybe it needs to be 35, but like it's going to take incremental change. I don't know what the other solution is. What's the other solution here?
I've tried it. So there's three tools we have, right? We talked about that. We have sheer numbers, we have our labor, and we have our purchasing power. All three of those tools are going to have to be brought to bear simultaneously at large scale. The scale you're talking about is insufficient to tackle the problem, and it doesn't use all the tools we have.
The scale I said 50%. The scale I'm talking about is way higher than the scale you're talking about. What are you talking about?
The same organizing efforts that you're talking about strictly for unions and labor reform can be used as a way to get all the tools together at once, not just that one thing that has lower chance of efficacy. That's my point.
Okay, so what's the better solution than unifying behind unions then? What's the better solution?
Yeah.
How many days do you think we need to strike in block port? Like,
Well,
your
that's
plan?
listen, as far as progression, it could be stopped in its tracks early, but the point is to have a decentralized movement. If you asked 10 Republicans and 10 Democrats, forget about the things they fight about. I think most would agree on the following. We want access to health care. We want to have a decent standard of living. We don't want crony capitalism. We don't want all these rich people running the country. We want to have representative democracy. I'd say 99 out of 100 people or nine, they'd agree on those things. That's common ground. So what we have to do is come together on the common parts, put aside the other stuff that we all think we're right about, because who doesn't think they're right? Because it's a class issue, not a left-right issue. So in order to do that, here's how you set it up. You have a specific set of progressive steps that involve the different tools we talked about and the different actions and strategies you can employ using those tools. You don't go out the first day and have 10 million people on the streets. It doesn't work that way. You have to build it over time. But then you have a specific set of demands that everyone can agree upon across all class lines. And then you put those out there. It's like telling the company what the union wants. So we have to basically do the union thing for the whole country, but include the other tools and progressively increase the tactics until they're willing to bend. That's the point of the movement.
That's honestly exactly what I've been saying for
No, it
20
isn't.
minutes. That's
No,
exactly what I've been saying for the last
no,
20 minutes.
You said to pressure companies to unionize so you can get more leverage with
No,
money.
I wasn't
from
saying.
that.
No, I wasn't saying pressure them. I'm saying we do unionize. I'm saying that, like, and I even said specifically, like,
No.
that
No.
it will be a snowball effect. That once it starts with one company, you have a snowball effect, and you have to progressively build it. And some of those tactics, like the tactic of just simply unionize, maybe that's what you think I'm saying. That just unionizing in and of itself will be enough. No, those unions then have to act. And some of those acts might be like blocking ports. Some of those acts might be not working for 3 months. Like there will be a lot of different actions we have to take depending on which corporation we're unionizing at. But I agree with you. We need the American people to recognize that they have the power. But they have to collectively use their power together. They have to collectively bargain. That's what unions are made for. And
But
so
it's not going to be done. It's not going to be accomplished through collectively bargaining at the union level. It's going to have to be a
I didn't
general
say it,
strike.
dude. I am not saying that. I'm not
thought this
saying
was
that at
about-
all. I'm saying that unions inside of a company are the way that you collectively bargain.
No,
but
it's
it has to
no,
be
no,
a
no,
massive
you're-
movement.
Here's what you're missing. Okay, I'm not trying to be rude to you, but the process of unionizing is going to be stymied in so many different ways. It's going to be a very difficult path. What I'm talking about, forget a union for a second, okay? Let's just say there's no unions, we're still at 6%, it doesn't work. Just take that for a second. Let's say it goes to 10%, which is more likely. Even if that's the case, we need to have a critical mass of between 10 and 20 million people minimum.
How do you
that
get
are
them?
wor-
How do you get those 10 or 20 million people?
This is the organizational stuff I'm talking about. It has to be a massive, decentralized, organized movement that agrees upon strategy, tactics, and desired outcomes, and then it has to slowly be built over time and then implement some of the strategies.
And how would they affect change in
It's
individual
very-
companies?
Very simple. Forget about companies. Forget about that for a second.
No, I'm asking a specific question. How would they
no.
implement the change in those companies?
Forget about the companies for a second. You're
Oh,
focused
okay.
on you're focused on business, and business is only part of the problem. You're focused on industry, which is a big part of the problem, but it's not the problem.
It's how the billionaires have accumulated their wealth and their power through those businesses.
Yeah, but here's the point. Though the effect you're going to have with unionization on the businesses versus the money they already have is not significant enough, and here's why. They still have the
It
same.
is if it's significant enough. You're assuming that it's not significant
listen,
enough.
hold on. Just let me finish, okay? You're not the process of trying to get unionized is not going to be effective enough, and here's why. It's not going to happen to the degree you hope it will. So what people have to do with their labor is take it away as if they're striking without going through collective bargaining en masse, a general strike that skips all the bullshit union stuff you're talking about, which is pie in the sky. It'd be great if we could do it, but it's not going to happen. That's my point. The corporations will do everything
You're
in their power.
explaining unionizing. You're explaining
You guys,
Felice and
but
Felice and my
a
favorite
general
video-
strike means we're not going to meet as workers in individual companies
Right.
and go through a collective bargaining
That's the
process.
point.
Like the general strike is decentralized. We all are agreeing to do something in different phases and different stages at different times. But yeah, like so it's.
That's what you're missing.
We all are saying
I'm not
the same thing.
You keep saying I'm missing that. It's fucking stupid. I'm not missing that at all.
You kept
We
saying-
are
you kept saying
saying the
company.
exact same thing, and I think that the solution is organizing a union that's going to lobby the government, and you're going to have all these articles
That's what you said.
of creating the union. No, Felice and I
Exactly what
share
you
the
said.
same favorite movie. It's Newsies. Okay, and it's based on a true story of the newsboys who went on strike against William Randolph Hearst and Pulitzer because they weren't being paid a fair wage. Did they file articles of incorporation for their union? No. They specifically said, even if we ain't got caps or badges, we're a union just by saying so. That's what I'm talking about.
They
And
did say
like
that.
you're getting lost in the weed. We're talking about the exact same fucking thing for like
We're
30
not,
minutes.
bro. We're not. No. So
Now
someone just
stop
made a
telling me we're not
Hold on.
talking about this. You
Someone.
don't know.
Hold on.
Listen, Chip,
Don't
shut
yell.
the
Don't
fuck up
yell.
for a
Don't
second.
yell.
Chip,
Don't
shut
yell.
up for a second. Shut up
Wow.
for a second.
Wow.
I'm telling you that what I'm thinking in my head is exactly what you're saying. Exactly.
Yeah, that may be.
We have to come together. We have to have, like, there has to be a big group of people. We have to come together and decide to do it together. But some of that will include unionizing. And if it doesn't include like an actual like setup of we're going to file articles of incorporation, I don't fucking care. You are a union when you work together for a goal. We're saying the exact same goddamn thing for 30 minutes now. Stop telling me we're not saying the same thing, because everything you say, I agree with.
Well, yelling and telling people to shut the fuck up
Shut
doesn't
up,
create
Chip.
good
Stop being a
dialogue.
baby. Stop
I'm not
it.
a baby, man. Listen, I'm not a baby. I'm just saying
I'm
the
sorry I
dialogue.
hurt your feelings by
No,
saying
Chip,
no,
I
no.
appreciate your brain.
It's
I
about a civil,
appreciate
it's about a
your brain.
civil dialogue, not about hurting somebody's feelings. My feelings aren't hurt.
I'm sorry
But
for saying fuck. I
but I
cuss.
think no, it's
I've
okay.
said the same thing 15 times, and
It's
you
okay.
keep saying that I don't
But
get it. We're
there's
saying
someone
the
in the
same thing,
hold
Chip.
on. Let me share what somebody in the chat said. I think this will be the differentiating point you need to hear. We need to hear. So somebody said what the post is saying is do it at the company level, and what Chip is saying is do it at the system level, meaning
Yes, and the
everybody at
person in the
once across
chat
the
is
country.
fucking wrong, and so are you. That is not what I am saying.
That's what you keep saying.
No, it's not. I just said, let me say it again. I don't care if you do it at the company level, but I'm
Okay.
saying that at the company level, some of these negotiations will take place, but it has to be a collective organization with multiple companies or multiple types of workers, and some of them won't be in a union. But if you want to take the ability away from the person at the top of the company to lobby Congress to pay you shit money, a great way to do that is by unionizing and by collectively bargaining with your company. And you can do that at the same time as you are doing a nationwide protest. You can do them simultaneously. This is
That's
not
true.
one or the other. It's
That's
both.
true. That's true. You can, I mean, the thing I'm trying to say is that I think, and listen, I don't disagree with you there. That's a good point. It can be and. But I think what you'll find is very quickly, if you try to initiate unionization at the company level as a part of this strategy, it's going to fail more than it's going to succeed. But you can convince somebody if you have what's called mutual aid, just like a union has a fund to carry people through the process.
Oh,
You can,
don't mutual aid me. I love mutual
you
aid.
can get through a process by helping your neighbor or your community. And here's why it has to be done in mass. Just to let you know, I'm not trying to jump on your parade. You can follow whatever course you want to follow. But the only way you stop the system is by stopping the system. Unionizing as a tool is great, but it doesn't have a broader impact. It's company by company, and it requires a long time to create any kind of effect if it does. It's not going to work, not buying anything, and organizing with 20 million people. They can't arrest everybody, they can't shoot everybody. That stops the entire system and makes the demands absolutely necessary. It's the same thing Europeans have done for decades. It works.
It's literally
France
what I'm
does it like
saying.
once every 3 months.
I can't figure out what we're arguing about here. I honestly can't.
I'm saying don't put as much emphasis into the unionization part, more of a general strike and stop the gears of commerce altogether for all industries, not just one company or one sector. It's not going to
Yeah,
be enough.
the only reason I
We
brought
gotta
up
stop
unions,
working
the
and we
only
gotta stop
reason I
buying.
kept bringing up unions is because that specifically also allows you. So while you have this movement across the country to give the workers more power, a union inside of a company also puts a check on the countermeasures by the owners of those companies. That's the only reason I brought up unions. It's a check against the owners. So of course we have to have a mass movement. But unionizing these large corporations would be a massive benefit to a movement like that.
It would help.
Massive.
Yeah, it
Because they
doesn't
are
hurt.
inside the company, they're acting as a check against the owner.
They're not. That's what I'm trying to bring up to you. So the ownership class and the moneyed interests have way more money than the different changes you're talking about. If you've got the margins to go down by half of a major corporation, they wouldn't stop doing what they're doing anyway. They're going to do more of it actually because you got that thing done. It's not going to be a check on anybody. Let's pretend right now they're all unionized. The companies aren't going to stop going for management-based reforms inside of the people they own.
So if the
Think
whole
about it.
workforce stops working, that's not a check against the owner?
Well, no, you're talking about a company. Again, I know you're saying you want to do it more widespread, but you keep going back to the statement about a company. So I'm just following your words, not mine.
Yes, and if the union goes on strike inside of a company and all the workers stop working, is that not a check against the owner?
No, it's not a check against
It's not.
anybody.
Okay.
No, not there. By the way, the owner is not the owner. The management of the company is owned by shareholders, who are very, very wealthy people who have about 75%.
And is that and
of the
what
shares.
happens to the stock? What happens to the stock price when the workers go on strike?
Oh, well, it potentially could go
Yeah,
down.
and
Potentially.
then what's going to happen with the shareholders? They're going to put a hell of a lot of emphasis on fixing this strike and on negotiating so that we end the strike so the stock price can go back up.
Let me give you an example of a real world situation. Because I'm an
What
Uber
if you
driver.
just talked
Let
to
me
me
get-
instead
let-
of
let-
giving me a goddamn
let-
example every
I'm
time?
giving you a real. I'm
If-
giving you a real world example. You're saying this is going to work. I'm telling you how it probably won't. Let me just give you one example. So in St. Paul, Minnesota, the Uber drivers organized and got the state legislature, both the House and the Senate, to pass very, very positive reforms for the workers. That went up to the governor for signature. He'd never vetoed a single bill in 6 years, and Uber paid him off, and they vetoed.
Was
the
there a
bill.
nationwide movement happening at the same time for workers' rights of
Well, what-
millions of people, or was this
No.
was that okay? Then we're not
course
talking
not.
about the same thing.
if-
Why
if
do you
the
keep
Uber driver-
isolating? Why do you keep isolating parts of my plan and pretending that's my whole plan?
I'm not pretending anything. I mean, what keeps happening in the conversation, I'm not trying to get caught down in the details, but you keep coming back to unionization, and I think where we're missing each other
Because
is
that's an important part of
it
the
could be,
plan.
but I think what I'm saying is that the ability to more quickly and effectively accomplish the change, it's going to be very, very, very difficult to organize within union structures because one, there's a huge impetus from shareholders and management to push back on them, which we've seen they've gone down to 6%, right? That's been the trend. If you're going to organize anyway, why not organize for the very set of actions that will stop? I mean, the and is fine, but it's going to distract attention away from the primary thing, which is to stop that. You have to stop the gears all the way around, or they're not going to pay attention. They're not going to care. They'll find other ways to lobby the government and get other things done that benefit the money class. They all make
That's
money
silly.
every day.
That's
They're
such a
making-
silly argument.
It's
It's
not-
so
it's
silly.
silly.
It's moronic, honestly. It's the dumbest part of your argument. Of course,
Well, listen,
of course
why-
having
why-
of course I'm
why do you have
talking
to
now.
go-
Of
why do you have to go
course.
there? Don't insult somebody to talk. That's not right. I'll be quiet, but just don't
my
be a
turn.
jerk.
Listen, no, because you are going out of your way to misrepresent my argument, and I don't know why. Like, of course, it would be a benefit for with this movement to also have unions. Of course, it would be a net benefit. It would not. You're acting like that would just be something that's only distracting. Of course, that would be a net benefit. Of course, if you had a union and you were negotiating with the owners and you had power inside of that company, of course, that would be a net benefit. Would it not?
So, yeah, I don't think it would hurt. I agree with you there. I don't believe.
You think it would be a net benefit?
Yeah, I do. I do believe. I agree
Okay,
with you.
then
on
I
that.
don't know what we're arguing about.
The point I'm trying to make is to get people's attention and get them to take action is very difficult. I've tried to do it my whole life. Have you ever done political organizing before yourself?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, well, I've done it for about 30 years. It's very difficult. So to get people to, first of all, to get the union workers, I have a friend who does union organizing. It's tough to get people to even want to do a union sometimes. You have a lot of people with different thoughts and beliefs, and they don't necessarily embrace the path that we're talking about. So that's difficult, and you have that. And then you have the corporate pushback. Like Walmart said, if a local group of people wanted to organize, they will shut down the supercenter where they're doing it. That's the kind of stuff these people will do. They have much more leverage in the beginning of the process, and people get discouraged. So,
And Chip, if there was a nationwide movement and the workers organized, would that be a net benefit? If you had a nationwide movement like you're suggesting, and the workers organized and formed a union, then Walmart doesn't have the power to shut down that store. Because if you unionize across the country for Walmart, then Walmart can't just say like, well, fuck that one store. They're
I
like,
agree with you
uh-oh,
there.
what are we going to say? Is the answer fuck all of our stores?
No, I agree.
Of course
I
not.
think you nailed that one on the head. But the problem is that Walmart employ a lot of people, But the movement needs to have between 20 and 30 million people for this type of situation to make a difference. And if we try to piece together the pieces of the puzzle by unionizing, like I said, it's hard to get people's attention. They're going to go one route or the other. They're going to organize for their own benefit through their family and their friends in the community who work for Walmart, rather than put themselves into a bigger effort that's nationwide that stops everything at once. And that's the part I'm trying to say is
Well,
those
Chip,
building blocks
with all
don't
due
hurt.
respect, you said you've been doing this for 30 years and you've been unsuccessful. Maybe it's because you're not very open to the fact that your way doesn't work.
No,
And maybe
listen, I've never
maybe a
organized a business.
multifaceted approach would be a better way. And you're discounting and you're putting your mind or your head in the minds of the workers, you're putting your head in the minds of the owners, and you're talking about a solution that you've never tried and you're just dismissing it and saying like this won't work because I have this experience. Well, your experience hasn't worked either. Like to all the community organizers out there who have tried this, it hasn't worked. So maybe it's time to try something a little bit different.
Well,
Maybe you're the one that's digging your heels in and is
it
stuck in the
could be.
mud.
You know, the propaganda system that functions very efficiently in our country, and it keeps people like, again, the fact that there's a live that's talking about left versus right is part of the problem. It keeps people from getting onto a different track that's class oriented. So I don't think people are dumb. I think they're distracted and they're misled at a large level, and they're made to think that the path to reform is through going to the polls. And because they've co-opted this system so incredibly, and again, you can have different ideas on how to get it done. But I think most people, when they really think this through and they watch what's happened over the last 75, 80 years, they realize that I don't think unionizing is going to be the answer, because I think most will be put down like anything else because they have the power and they've used their resources to squash, political organizing at the union level. But if everybody steps outside one day, doesn't buy anything for a month or two other than essentials, decides they're not going to go to work, they withhold their labor, not just union shops, but anybody who has a job, period. And then you add into that, the fact that, you can hold it, you have to last them out long enough. You have to, if you're a corporation right now making $10 million a week and you don't make that $10 million for 3 straight weeks, not just a union place, but everywhere, everyone's going to be shitting their pants and they're going to have to acquiesce. That's the point.
Yeah,
But
I agree with that.
I've never organized this kind of stuff because this is something you can't just organize. It's got to be tens of thousands of people involved to even start the organizing. It can't be one. If it's one person, they're going to chop the head off the snake. So that's all I said. It's got to be decentralized, and I would love it if we
Well,
could
the
vote
problem
people
with
in power.
decentralizing and not having a union is you have no money. And when you have no money, it's going to be really fucking hard to convince people to not work because there's
Well,
no
that's why you
money
have
to
to.
support them. But when you
That's
have
why
a
the
union
people.
and you have union dues and you have union fundraisers and they make money, then when you
Yeah,
go on strike for 3 months, you can pay those workers. They have food in their bellies. But
yeah. I
if you
think.
have a completely decentralized movement and you're
Yeah.
asking these people to stop working and saying, we don't know when you're going to have money again, yeah, you're going to have a hard time with that.
No,
You're going to have a really hard time convincing Americans to stop
I,
feeding their
yeah.
families in hopes that this plan is going to work.
Well, I've talked about this issue before. So just like you have a union fund where you collect dues from workers, you have to have a strike fund and mutual aid. I think Felice talked about this a second ago. She
Yeah,
says
so
yes,
then it's a
mutual aid.
union.
Well, but it's not. Again, it's not directed at a particular company. It's done on a national basis, and people who are involved. You have a local fund that's raised for people who struggle through it to be able to provide a floor for people. But it's not directed at any particular industry or
Yeah,
company because
that's what I said, Chip. I said that it doesn't have to be a union in the way that they're organized now. You don't have to file articles of incorporation. You don't have to direct it at one person, but a union itself, a collective, an organized collective that can fundraise and can help people pay bills when they need to pay bills or get just food on their table is necessary for this to work.
yeah, I agree 100%. Yeah, that's
That's what
what's
I've been
called
saying
mutual
this
aid.
entire time. If you remember back to my Newsies example, I said specifically, it literally can be just people coming together and say, we're doing this together, and here's how we're gonna pay for food. Here's how we're gonna work together to make sure that people don't starve to death while we boycott.
Yeah, that's exactly right, and that's why I'm glad we agree now. That's now the conversation is hitting the point that I raised in the beginning. It was a little different when it was going through, and maybe you were thinking the whole thing the whole time, but it wasn't coming out of your mouth the way that it matched up with that. That's the point I'm trying to raise.
Well, yeah, and look, for whatever reason, I get heated, but That's what I'm trying to say is that when you come in like the expert, like you've done this and you know about unions, you didn't listen to me the entire time when I was trying to tell you that, like, I don't care how it's organized. I don't care if there's articles of incorporation. The point is that we need to put pressure on these billionaires and these owners and the investors, the shareholders, and we need to do that from every direction. So that would include an organized union within the company. That would include a national movement. That would include unorganized movements for maybe businesses where they were unable to create a union inside of that company. But if you have a union inside of the company on top of a national movement and we've come together, that is far more powerful than just the national movement without the union, or
It's it all
just the union without the national movement.
all pieces of the right puzzle. But I will say this: if you know you have recordings of your live, right? They record, right?
Yep.
So if you have a chance, download the live, go back and repeat the first part of our conversation. And I think you'll understand why I responded the way that I did, because the things, maybe you were thinking them, but the things that you spoke about were sort of sector and company specific, even though you may have thought it on a bigger scale. That's why I responded the way I did. That's all. And I'm sorry to make you upset. I don't want to make anybody upset.
No, I'm not upset. Listen, I do this every day. I yell at people every single day. I'm just like, it just felt like you were going out of your way to say that, like, that having a union inside of a company is not going to work. That's what it felt like.
Fair enough. So I wish you all the luck. My point in the beginning was that electoral politics is not going to be the path to reform, and hopefully we got past that point today. That's the
Yeah, I
point.
agree with that. We both agree with that. We've been saying that.
Thank
It's
you
not
for
gonna
letting me
work.
on. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. I
How
appreciate
about
it.
Nice to talk to you, Chip.
You as well. See you later. Take care.
I mean, yeah, I enjoyed that conversation because that is something I think about reform versus revolution. And like I think that the middle of the country has a really hard time stomaching the idea that, like, hey, you can't vote your way, you can't vote really hard out of this system that we're trapped in. It's going to take more than that. And I think it is hard for people to hear. And that's why when change comes, it comes at the worst times, right? Because the middle of the country, who's rather comfortable, usually it takes people who want to affect change and do something drastic are usually miserable, right?
Right.
And so until the middle of the country gets miserable, the scarcity in this economy is everything is so scarce, resources are scarce, you can't make ends meet. That's when change usually happens, because it's directly proportional to the level of misery in the country. And I would prefer if people would just notice, like, hey, this isn't going to work. It's not just going to be voting. So I really enjoyed that conversation. I think we were saying a lot of the same stuff, but yeah, I think that's a conversation that needs to be had. Everyone needs to start getting used to the idea that the solution is not, I'm going to vote really hard. It's going to
Right.
be more than that.
And I do also think it's important to, like, show the dichotomy between right and left. I think that was one of the parts maybe I disagreed with, is that, like, you have the entirety of the right has been co-opted to believe that these corporations existing in the way that they do and having this power is necessary for them to be able to make a living. They think that, like, if those people can't
It's
make
what you hear David
300
saying all the
billion,
time.
yeah,
Yeah.
then you
It's like,
can't make a
oh,
living.
they'll
But it's the
leave. If
opposite.
we do something, they'll leave. Like, if we strike, they're going to take their company and leave. So
Right.
let's all just continue being miserable and letting them accumulate wealth. Like, at some point, we have to make a move.
Yeah. Rough Rick, welcome.
Hey, thank you. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, fantastic. I just got new headphones. Anyway, thanks for letting me on. I agree with you guys on everything. We've talked a couple times before. This chip guy though, it's kind of nuts. I mean, I do agree with this general strike idea. I just want to come on real quick. There is actually right now a few different groups that have combined and are promoting a general strike. Generalstrike.us has all the information on it. They have a strike fund. They have other
Oh,
mutual aid
cool.
that is going on right now. Their
What was
goal
that?
is
What was the website?
Generalstrike.us, did you say?
Thank you.
yes, generalstrike.us. But they have a strike fund. They're trying to get 11 million people so that they can start a strike. We were actually trying to do strikes earlier this year. We were trying to do like a May Day strike, and then we combined with one or two other groups, and generalstrike.us was one of them. They're committed to getting numbers and then working with other unions to try and promote a large general strike. They have demands. They're all work. They change constantly with input.
Hey, Rick, real quick, while people
Yeah,
pull this
hold
up, are
on.
you sure it's not
Yeah.
generalstrikeus.com?
It's like
might-
something else is going
generalstrike.us
on at
isn't-
General Strike.
Yeah, I think it's
I'm sorry.
generalstrikeus.com. It looks
I was
that's
like,
what it
that's
looks
not
like
right.
what you're talking about.
That's probably it. It's been a
Okay.
while since I've been on the site. I recently just sold my house. I haven't been talking with the people for a while. I've been super busy doing other things. I just want to come on and promote that real quick. But
Yeah, generalstrikeus.com.
yeah, sorry. Thank you.
I've never seen it. I'll have to read through this. Thank you.
Yes, please. Yeah,
That's
please check it
awesome.
out. Anybody else
The
who's on the
strike
live,
is
please check
coming.
it
This
out.
is cool. Look at see, Chip, you started a great conversation. Now we found a resource. This is good.
I now take it back, Chip. Don't shut the fuck up. I apologize.
The keys just talking a lot of circles. Jesus Christ. You guys are talking saying the same things.
That's what I thought too, but apparently I wasn't clear to everybody, so I'll get better at my argument. But I appreciate this. We're gonna have to, Felice and I will dig into this. This is something we'll definitely cover, and maybe we can
Yes,
get
please.
somebody from the organization to come talk to us. This is awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you
Yeah,
guys so
this
much.
is really cool.
Thanks, Rough Rick.
Oh, and I followed you, Rick.
All right. And there's El Rocho's back.
What up, guys?
Welcome back. Sounds much better.
Man, you know what? I think I was walking into the wind or something earlier. I was outside.
Well, at least you weren't pissing into it. Could have been worse, huh?
But you know what else? This thing, like, whenever I jump on these, it like messes up. I gotta like connect my Bluetooth again. It just does that every single time I get on for some reason.
The government's after you.
I know, dude. Exactly.
Guys, tap the screen. Let's get to 150K. I just noticed we're not at 200K. Let's get to 200K. It's almost 12:15. Time flies when you're having fun. So, and also share the live. And if you don't have anyone to share it with, then push the copy link button.
We lost him. Big text censoring.
Did we lose him?
Back?
No, I'm here. I don't know. My Bluetooth's all messed up. I'll just use my phone. It's all good. Man, I need to write stuff down when you guys are talking because now I don't know what I was gonna say exactly. But, dude, what's up with the low view count, man? You got to start telling people to fuck off more and stuff. This is like the lowest I've ever seen it. You're being too nice, bro. You're over here sounding like Whisper and shit, dude.
Sorry about that. I'll try and be meaner in the future.
Here, I'll say a bunch of shit that you'll yell at me for. And
There
tell
we
me to
go.
Shut the fuck up.
I thought you might be good for that.
Yeah. Hey, but like, I just thought it was funny that you, well, like, okay, so if I'm not like some econ major or anything, but I just feel like when corporations, I've talked to you about this before. I think we should freaking demonopolize that shit for sure. But doesn't that just make them like, yeah, sure, unions, whatever, you know, tax them, tax the 1%, tax, that's all good. But doesn't that make them like raise prices on everything that they like sell?
Well, see, that's the thing. That's what they tell you. And potentially, sure. But why don't we fix the system so that when we tax them and they say, like, I still need to make $300 billion, we don't allow them to raise the prices to gouge us so that they can keep their corporate profits high. What if we did that?
Right. So just cap what they're able to make.
It's going to get super uncomfortable, right? Like a general strike, the idea of a general strike is, yeah, corporations are going to push back. They'll raise prices, make things less available. They'll try to make everyone's life miserable. And that's the question is like, how uncomfortable are we willing to get to force the system to change?
Right, but then so you guys do want big government to step in and start implementing things that stop them from doing that, right? Like stops Lockheed and Martin from owning freaking BlackRock, from owning fucking Merrill Lynch or whoever else they own, like all the other corporations. So how do we stop that?
Yeah, the government already taxes. We're not advocating for more power from the government, but right now, like the clear, like most of these billionaires pay nothing in taxes. They've set up their own tax structure. They've got it passed through Congress, and they basically can float around. Their company can offer zero interest loans that they never pay back. The company writes that off as a loss. That person operates because the money looks like a loan, they're not taxed on it. There's all these loopholes for these billionaires to skirt taxes everywhere. All we're saying is that, hey, once you're over 10, 20 million, whatever you want to set the line at, like your tax rate should be 90%. You should not be able to accumulate more money than you can spend while people are literally dying in the streets.
I agree, dude. I agree 100%. But
So what we're advocating for is a progressive tax strategy, first of all. And at the very least, even if we can't bring all of that wealth back down, at the very least we can pay for healthcare. At the very least we can pay for mental health care. At the very least we can pay for housing for the unhoused. At the very least we can improve schools in underserved communities. We can elevate the poor and the middle class. That's all we're really trying to do. I don't really care that Elon Musk has a lot of money. I care that Elon Musk has a lot of money while there are people dying in the streets. I care that we are unwilling to tax him and so that we can have a more equitable system. That's what I care about.
right. So how do you do that without affecting small business all while, I mean, doesn't it all go under the same like laws or whatever bills you're trying to pass? Isn't it going to be all under the same blanket, like minimum wage and um, stopping people that aren't mega wealthy corporations from making money?
No, if you're like, let's say we at $10 million a year, you're taxed. It's a progressive tax rate. So every dollar over 10 million that you make, you're taxed at 90%. Would that affect people who make $40,000 a year?
Right, I understand what you're saying.
And we're talking about income tax, by the way. We're not even talking about just like corporate tax. We're talking about personal income tax and your ability to hide your personal income. The richer you get, the easier it is to hide your income. The more money I made, the less percentage I paid in taxes because I could afford to pay a tax attorney to do my taxes differently than I would. And it went from one year I paid over 50% of my income to taxes. The next year was virtually the same, but I had a tax attorney and I paid it was like 15 to 20%.
Got it. Yeah, I understand all that. I thought we were talking about the corporate tax, like the 1% that pays 99% of the taxes in the country, which I don't believe that either. I think that's kind of bullshit.
Well,
But
look, yeah, if you can, the person who pays the most taxes should be the person who makes the most money, right?
right.
Because especially if it's a percentage. But if you,
So you're
this is
saying that the corporations themselves are getting taxed, but the people that run the corporations are able to take the money they make and like hide their tax information and stuff like
yeah, certainly there's a corporate income tax.
that. Okay. All right. Well, shit. I guess I'm not gonna say a bunch of stuff to you that's gonna make you yell and shit. Because I mean, damn, man. Well, there was something else. So
Well,
like,
dude, oh yeah, go ahead.
well, I mean, in one breath you say you don't want the government deciding, what women can do with their body, quote unquote, and then the same breath you say you want social medicine, and I'm just like, wait, what? Like,
No, I
how?
want I want Medicare for all, and basically what that is just all you, myself, Felice, everybody else in America coming together as one negotiating body, and we say to Big Pharma, hey, we're going to negotiate the prices with like you're negotiating with us, the American people, all as one. They're not negotiating with private healthcare companies. They're not negotiating with other profit centers. They're negotiating with us. And if we negotiate that way, we'll negotiate fairer prices, and then we
Through
pool our
who? How
money.
are they negotiating with us though? Through who?
So if you have Medicare for all, like right now, do you have health insurance?
Right this second.
Not okay. Well, let's just pretend you have health insurance. It's Blue Cross Blue Shield. With Medicare for all, you would no longer have Blue Cross Blue Shield. They would not be responsible for paying your medical bills. When you have medical insurance, you pay in monthly, and your company probably matches some or pays a portion of that. They pay
Right,
in monthly,
right.
and that money goes to the insurance company, and they pay your
Hmm.
medical bills. But they also say like, here's your deductible. So let's say your deductible is $5,000. The first $5,000 of medical bills in the year you pay. There's also a copay for doctor's visits that you pay. And then anything over
Right.
$5,000, they're going to step in and they're going to pay. In Medicare for all, you're taking that same money, you're giving it to Medicare, and when you go to the doctor, you pay $0. When you don't get a bill from the doctor sends that bill directly to Medicare, and Medicare pays that bill for you.
Yeah, but what you just said happens right now isn't happening, dude. Like I had this conversation. You probably don't remember me. I've been on here a couple times. what it's usually. I've been on with Whisper a few times, and I think like once I got on with you and Whisper. But I told you like this story of I had a surgery on my hand that cost freaking I don't even remember. It was like $4,500, but I had like two $600 deductibles that I had to pay for. So, or I'm sorry, it wasn't 45, it was like 2,500. So like I had two $600 deductibles that I had to pay before. So I mean, I'm just saying like, yeah, I still had to pay $1,200 of it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
imagine if you
Like,
didn't have to pay that. Imagine if you went to the doctor and you didn't have to pay $1,200.
right, imagine, but how
That's how Medicare for all works. You don't
okay,
pay.
but who implements that, dude? Like, there's not like an entity that says that goes to bat for you and me to the
Yeah,
insurance
Medicare.
companies.
Wait, no, Medicare. They pay it. So, like right now, Medicare, if you're on Medicare right now and you go to the doctor, uh, when the doctor sends the bill, they send it to Medicare and Medicare pays the bill. They don't send the bill to you. They don't ask you for money. They send that to Medicare and Medicare pays for the bill. So because that already exists, because we already have an operating system like that, that's why Bernie Sanders' bill was Medicare for all. You're taking an
Wait,
existing
you're
system that
saying
we
right
have in
now,
Medicare and you expand it to everybody.
you're saying right now that Medicare is going to cover bills if you go to the hospital and don't pay for it?
No, not now. We're advocating that that be put in place.
Oh, right,
So
got
right
it.
now, Medicare is not paying your bills. But if we have Medicare for all of us pay into Medicare, and we'll pay more into Medicare than what we're paying now. There's no question about that. We will have to pay a lot more money, but it's less money than what we pay on average for private health care. On average, it would cost the American, like each American, eight
On
thousand dollars.
average,
Hold on,
bro, I
hold on,
haven't
hold
been
on,
to the
hold on.
doctor in
Wait, hold
10
on, hold on.
years. What do I
Just
gotta
hold on, hold
pay?
on, hold on. Just let me finish this, and then you can rebut. On average, right now, Americans pay $12,000 a year. With Medicare, projections are that they would pay roughly $8,000 a year. So the average American saves $4,000 a year with Medicare for all, and there's no deductible, there's no premium, or there's no copay.
I wonder what those numbers look like comparatively to like 10 years ago, how much people were paying for
But it's
insurance.
certainly higher now.
Yeah. Well, because there's a bunch of little kids on Adderall and all kinds of different pharmaceutical drugs and
Well,
like way
yeah, but you're
more.
leaving out the other part where these like the big pharma and these healthcare companies are paying out millions and millions and millions of dollars in commissions and dividends and salaries for their CEOs. All that
Right.
money that could go to care for the people under Medicare for all, that money would go to care for the people. The most telling stat I've ever seen is that with private health insurance, between $2 and $3 every out of $10, out of every $10 you send to a private healthcare company, between two and three of those dollars are used to pay for patient care. So roughly 20 to 30% of the money goes to patient care. On Medicare, that number is between $7 and $8. So 70 to 80%
Right.
goes to patient care. Right.
So
So
who
with
who
Medicare, you
runs
are getting
Medicare?
far more for your money than you would in private healthcare. And
If you
it's
have
easy
to
to
spend
figure
the
out why.
money.
It's because nobody's going to be making millions of dollars off of your health.
If you have to spend the money, you'll be saving. But what if you haven't been to the doctor in 10 years? I still got to pay for Medicare for all every
Yeah,
year until I go to the
that's
doctor?
why this system works, right? That's what health insurance is about. And that's how these healthcare companies operate too. Is in order for them to be able to pay for everything, you need healthy and unhealthy people all paying in at once. Eventually all of us will be unhealthy unless we die young. But as you age, you're going to have things that come up and you're going to need to go see a doctor. You're not going to be 20 or 30 forever.
Right.
So
So shouldn't there
the
be
idea behind this is that you keep pooling that money so that when you do need healthcare, the money's there. But we're not saying that everybody should use healthcare all at once, or that if everybody in the country went to the doctor all at once and needed a surgery that we could pay for it. But that's the point. You need both healthy and unhealthy people
so
in the
shouldn't it
system.
be so shouldn't it be like terraced by age or something then?
Did you say
No, you're
terrorist?
paying in now when you're not
Terraced,
using, like,
like
you're not going
terraced,
to the doctor.
like
You're relatively
staggered.
healthy. You pay in so that when you become relatively unhealthy in your old age, the money is there, right?
Okay, so Medicare for all isn't free Medicare. It's just everybody pays the same amount, and just in case you have to go 40 years from now when your, you know, dick stops getting hard and shit like that.
Yeah, like you still have to pay taxes. Like let's say you have to pay taxes in your city that go to fix the roads, but what if you walk everywhere? Right? It still happens.
You're
You're
still
still going to be
using the
taxed.
road. Well, you're still using the road. You're not just
Well, no,
walking
you're
on
walking on the
dirt
sidewalk,
cobble.
right?
Like,
Maybe you don't ever
yeah,
use the road.
somebody
Maybe you
had to
stay.
pay for the sidewalk.
Hold on. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, right? Like not every dollar that you send for taxes is something that you use, right? You're old enough that you're not going to public school, but your taxes
Got
are
it.
being used to fund public school, but you're not going to public school.
Right, that makes sense, I guess. I
Yeah.
mean, well, because to that I would say, well, yeah, you're paying into like making sure societal norms are
You want
how do I
kids to have
say
an
this?
education. You want kids to be
Exactly. Well,
taken care of. Yeah.
you want good people in your society and shit,
Yeah.
right?
Don't you want healthy people in the society?
That's what you would say
Yeah.
about that. So I mean, I have no argument, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause
And I think
mean,
it's
I
cool you
do,
haven't
but I
been
also
to the doctor in 10 years, but you should, right? We should get checkups. We should be able to get physicals because that
I
way,
mean,
like
I'm
one of
not
the
even gonna
major,
lie, man.
well, no, listen, one of the drains on our system is people can't go to the doctor, so they're not caught when there's like say early cancer that could be caught and could be taken care of. We are treating people at the point where they're in the emergency room dying, and that is more expensive than paying for a yearly screening for people. So yeah, preventative healthcare is also a way to save us money when we are doing right now we're just treating disaster situations, and
So
that's more
Medicare
expensive.
for all would be an entity ran by a non-governmental arm, right? Like who runs it?
Say that one more time.
Like so Medicare for all would be ran by like a non-government entity, right?
No,
Like
it would be
who
the
would
government. It's the
okay.
government.
That's what I thought.
Medicare is run by
Right.
the government.
Okay. So you want the state to decide who gets a heart transplant, who gets a
No,
liver
see,
transplant, who gets a blood transfusion.
no.
Like
Wait, hold on. Let me explain this. Do you
They're
think?
not the doctors.
Yeah, right. First of all, that
they're the
that
money though.
happens.
Who
Let me
fuck
give you
the
an example here.
doctors? Who gives a shit?
El
They're the
Rocha,
money.
Let me
Yeah,
give you an
that's what's
example.
happening now.
Yeah, let me give you an example. My dad had stage 4 cancer. The doctor said he needed treatment immediately. He needed to start doing chemo immediately. His healthcare provider gave him the runaround and would not authorize the care. It took almost 6 weeks for him to start treatment. Um, that's because the healthcare provider was looking for the cheapest possible option. In this scenario, Medicare for all, and the reason I support Medicare for all rather than a system like in the UK where the doctors work directly for the state is exactly because of that. Medicare
If
for all
Medicare is
they are
ran
doing,
by the
they
state,
hold on,
who are
hold
the
on, hold on,
doctors
hold on,
working
hold on,
for?
hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Listen, in Medicare for all, the doctors still work for themselves. They do not work. They are not. They don't work for the state. They're not told what to do by the state, and by the state I mean the country, the government. They still work for themselves. They just go to the country to Medicare to pay the bill. They say, "Here's the work I did. Pay me my money." Medicare is not stepping in and saying you must do this treatment. You must give this medication. That's why I support Medicare for all versus other plans I've seen pitched where all the doctors and nurses would be paid for by the government. I want a system that provides care for all of us that is the least corruptible. And the least corruptible system would be Medicare. Now, any system can be corrupted, but I'm going to choose the one that's least corruptible. And Medicare is far less corruptible than private insurance. Private insurance is very corrupt, extremely corrupt. And
Yeah.
they will let people die to make a few more dollars. They do
Well,
not care.
that all goes back in terms of what we were talking about originally. They're corrupt because there's like 3 insurance companies. There's really only like 3. There's
And
Yeah,
a
well,
because
and
they
million
make
of them,
privatized
profit.
but like
profit.
3 of them
Privatized
own a
profit
bunch
is
of them.
corrupt. When you
Right.
say, hey, you're telling a insurance adjuster, hey, you can't approve anyone else this month for any procedure, any surgeries because privatized profit or you're getting fired. That's what's scary is right now privatized insurance profits in order to go to their shareholders and say, oh, we've increased our profits, are denying people medical care.
So how do we change all this plus run our own businesses plus like have families? Plus, I mean, I don't punch a clock, dude. I haven't had a job on the books in like 13 years. I've just been working for myself. So, like, what do we do? What do I do?
Well, you probably need to you need to look at like your political interests, how you vote. The first thing you can do is figuring out your own political interests. Do, when you look at the people that are advocating, the people that you're voting for, what are they advocating for? Are they advocating for things that directly affect you? Are they advocating things that will make your life better? Or are they advocating things that will just drive profits for people who are already rich? And I think
Right, but
that is the biggest difference between the left and the right, is that the right believes that the government has ruined everything and needs to stay out of the way. And I kind of agree with that, but I think it's just they needed to go one step further and realize that the reason that the government is needs to get out of the way or has fucked things up is because the government acts at the behest of the billionaire class, the rich people. The left consistently wants to go after the rich people because we identify them correctly as the problem. And I think the right just needs to go one step further and recognize that the government
but they
itself
don't. RTP,
is
they don't,
controlled
bro.
by the rich. So if we want to change the government, we have to take away the power from the rich.
So how are all these crony politicians getting, leftist politicians getting paid millions of dollars by lobbyists and everything still
Yeah,
right now?
because they're part of that system too. And those people
Okay, well
on
then they
and
don't care. The left isn't
wait,
trying to
wait, hold
change
on though.
shit, dude.
Hold on. It's our job to hold those people accountable as well.
That's all of them, bro.
It's not all of them.
Yes. Okay, name
No,
me
it's
one
not.
that's not. Name one that isn't.
That isn't completely controlled by corporate interests.
That hasn't gotten
AOC.
paid. That has AOC is a
AOC
millionaire.
doesn't accept.
AOC
No,
is a
she's not. Hey,
millionaire. Bullshit. She
she's.
got caught for
Stop talking.
embezzlement by her finance manager got busted like the first year she was in office. What the fuck are you talking
Oh
about?
my God. Okay,
That
so
bitch has $1
AOC.
million in the bank right now, dude. I know you like sniffing her
AOC is
farts
not a
and everything,
millionaire,
but
and
she has $1
she
million
lives
in the
off.
bank.
She lives off of her salary. She's one of the only
Bullshit.
congressional. Okay. You're wrong about this. She's one of the only people in Congress that actually lives off of their congressional salary.
You're
She
all-
doesn't accept
you're
money from
confused.
lobbyists. Hey,
Bye,
listen,
Felicia.
listen. You shouldn't die on this hill because you're wrong.
I'm not wrong. Oh, AOC
Yes,
has
and
$1
you know
million
who the
in
other
the
one is?
bank
Stop
right now.
talking.
AOC
Hey,
has $1 million in the bank
hey,
right
stop
now.
talking. Stop talking. You are wrong. She doesn't. This is the point. You're talking about how do we fix the system? People are accepting lobbyist money and are therefore being controlled by corporations and the donor class. There are a few people in Congress who are not accepting that money. AOC is one of
Why
them.
did
Another
she
one.
get busted
Stop
for
talking.
embezzling money then?
Stop
No, I'm not
interrupting
gonna.
me.
Mute me.
Stop
Bye,
interrupting me.
Felicia.
Stop
Get out of
interrupting
here.
me. Stop
Look, sweetheart.
interrupting me. Like, it's so annoying. Anyways, so, and another one just for the
The
people
boys
in
are
here.
talking. Sit the
Just
fuck down. Look at your view count, bro. I got.
just for people who are like on the far right, another person who doesn't accept corporate lobbying money is Matt Gaetz. So there are some on the far right, there are some on the left that do not accept corporate lobbying money, and that's something to look into when you're voting down ballot as well. Like, what are these people's intentions? Where is their money coming from? Are they being controlled by lobbyists? There are people on the right and the left who are not controlled by lobbyists, and yeah, that is probably the one of the only things I do respect about Matt Gaetz is that
Matt
he
Gaetz is
doesn't want
controlled by lobbyists.
he
Sorry.
okay. So again, you're wrong about that. The only good thing about
I'm
Matt
not.
Gaetz is that he does not accept money from lobbyists. Like, you're absolutely wrong.
Says who? Matt Gaetz and AOC?
Well,
Brother,
you're
You
brother,
don't think there's ways to
brother,
disguise that
El
money?
Rocho,
They're
El
getting
Rocho.
paid, you
Hold
guys.
on, brother.
Sorry.
Hold on, brother. I need to say a couple of things. Number one, this is not my platform. This is a platform I share with Felice. So never again will you come on this platform and be misogynistic and sexist to Felice. Now, she's a big girl and she can handle herself, and she's also smarter than you. But this is not my platform. It's our platform. So don't ever tell
I don't
her
care.
to be
Boot
quiet,
me then,
and don't
bro.
call her and
Felice
don't
can
call it.
shut up.
Hold on, and don't mods. Can you guys take care of the mic while I'm talking? You're not going to talk to her like that when you're on my platform. But secondly, what you cited with AOC is a long debunked Facebook post. The reason that we know about AOC's taxes and the reason we know about Matt Gaetz' money is because they are required to submit financial disclosures, and we can look over their finances. AOC does not have $1 million in the bank. In fact, AOC, I believe, is still paying off student loans. AOC bought a property, which is an investment, and she pays on that monthly. She does not have $2 million
Yeah,
in
with
the bank. She
lobbyist
does
money.
not have $1 million in the bank. The problem with you, El Rocho Porvida.
Why did she
The
get
problem
busted
with
for
you, El
embezzlement
Rocho
then?
Porvida.
Low
is you
information.
hear
He
something and you believe it, and that's where you stop.
Go
You hear
look it
something
up
that you think.
yourself.
I'm looking it up right now. I just explained to you that
you
I
can't
did
just
look it
make
up,
things
and
up.
the source that you're using is a debunked Facebook post. You read something that you saw on the internet and you believed it because you're dumb, I think.
She absolutely still has student debt, or she did recently. And yeah, it's just simply not true. And just like, I'm not a Matt Gaetz fan, but I will say for sure that he does not accept lobbyist money, and I respect him for that. So if you really care about this stuff, El Rojo, and you're mad about corporate lobbying money, billionaire lobbying money, which I am too, then you can look up who is accepting it and who isn't.
Bro, I'm reading it right here. Her finance director got caught for embezzlement, dude. Like, what are you talking
Yeah,
about?
dude. Is her finance director, is that her or is that a different person, dude?
Well, of course she's
Yeah,
not gonna
dummy.
go do it
Wait,
herself.
wait,
Oh, I'm dumb.
wait.
I'm dumb. Right,
No,
right.
you are dumb. Actually, I've had a financial.
Well, you're
I
a
had
big
a
fat
financial
poopy
advisor.
head. How
Wait,
about that?
hey, I had a financial advisor that is currently in jail for same thing, embezzling. And guess what? I didn't get charged with anything. You know why? Because I'm not a criminal. I didn't do anything wrong. Being associated with somebody who went to jail does not make you, by proxy, guilty of going to jail. This is the problem with your brain. It's broken. You don't know how to make a fucking connection. This is stupid. That's the all
Bro,
of your
how can
arguments
you
are
say
stupid.
that when?
How
How
can
can
I
you
say
say that
how can I
when
say that somebody going to
there's
jail for a
literally
crime
right
they
here, you
committed
can't make
does
the
not
connection
implicate
between a
somebody
finance
else that they
director
worked
and the
with?
person she works for that's a corrupt
She doesn't
politician.
work
You
for
can't
them.
make the
Wait,
connection.
she
He
doesn't
works
work for
for her,
them.
dumbass.
She doesn't work for them. She doesn't work for them. She hired them. They worked for her.
No shit, dude. That's what I just said.
Yeah, if somebody works for me and they commit a crime and it doesn't implicate me, I am not guilty of that crime. They are.
Okay, but you just said I can't make a connection. That's a
You
connection
didn't.
right there,
The only
dude.
connection is that person worked for her.
Okay.
Yeah. See,
I
this.
mean, dude, you guys
Listen,
are
dude,
blind,
you've got it.
bro.
Listen, at some point, what you've got to do is, and I mean this sincerely, you have to realize that you don't do enough research to have strong opinions. And when people show you that you're wrong, what you should do is recognize, like, oh, I don't ever research anything far enough. You saw something online that said
That's
AOC had
you
two.
guys,
I'm
bro.
not done. That's the middle
AOC
of my
has $1
sentence.
billion, bro,
Mods,
in the
take care of
bank
that.
right
Mods,
now.
take care of that. What I'm saying to you is you saw a Facebook post that claimed she had millions of dollars in the bank, and she doesn't. And we know that because we have her financial disclosures. You were wrong about that. But rather than admit that you were wrong, you're going to double down on it because you connect emotionally to everything. You're uniquely one of the most emotional human beings that I've ever interacted with. Mods, can you take care of that? You're probably the most emotional person I've interacted with, and it's ironic that like you are misogynistic and you say dumb shit like that, but you are emotional, and that's how you make all of your decisions. Now he's just trying to get us banned by playing copyrighted music.
I mean, like, what a dumb hill to die on. Like, Facebook posts, like, it's so easily disproven.
And I don't want to be critical of you, and I don't want to tell you how to respond to people, but if you could respond to him and not look like a woman, that would make things go a lot easier for us. If you could just maybe a mask, you're gonna have to get a voice change because apparently
It's
that's a
like
problem.
so unreal. It's just, I don't even, it's just, men are embarrassed. Like, it's just so interesting, like, to hear a woman say something, you will just double down and be even more wrong. Like, in order to what? Just because you can't agree with a woman, so you want to be more wrong? Like, congratulations on that.
We are an emotional
That was an
group of-
embarrassing moment. I want
We're-
Chip back. I knew what was going on. Where's Chip? Now I bet you miss Chip.
I did. I
You
do
miss
miss
arguing
Chip.
about unions.
I liked Chip, but I have to choose my language more carefully with Chip. Cleveland, Canada. How much time do we have left? 20 minutes?
Oh,
18?
guys, tap the screen. Let's get to 200K. It's almost 1 o'clock. We haven't made it to 200K.
Welcome.
Thanks, Tanner.
Cleveland, Canova. I don't know. Is there something shorter we can call you?
Yes, Cleveland's fine.
All right, Cleveland. Welcome.
Hey, guys.
Cleveland Casanova.
Oh my gosh, if only. Hey, I enjoy you guys. And Felice, you're an historian, correct? If I'm not mistaken.
I mean, I have a degree in history. I used to be a researcher for my professor. So,
Oh, awesome. Yeah, me too. I have a degree from the University of Cincinnati. I grew up in the Deep South. I'm the youngest baby boomer you'll ever talk to. I was born the second to last day, 1964. I don't know if that is credit
the
for anything.
youngest baby. That's a claim to fame. There we go.
Yeah, it's a very, very short claim.
The
But
last one born on the cutoff.
yeah, they're gonna have a movie starring Tom Cruise, like The Last Samurai or something like that. But I'm running for an Ohio House of Representatives seat in the next election cycle in 2024 in Warren, Ohio, which is just north of Cincinnati. I'm running as a Democrat. So I'm not going to have the fireworks of your previous caller.
I think you mean Marxist. You're running as a Marxist.
Well,
A leftist communist
Yeah,
is what we
I'm-
have up here.
yeah, it's so I'm, I have a history of being a Republican in the 90s. I was a Republican in 2000. I was a Republican. I was voting my interests. I was making pretty good money in the six figures. I was like, yeah, okay, taxes. I want to keep as much as possible. And then the realization is everything came unwound as Republicans, they beef up the economy. And if you're not in the in club, of course, when it all comes apart, you're not given notice in time. And then you're left there holding your bankruptcies or a lost investment. So I got out of the Republican Party, voted for Obama in 08, 12, and Hillary in 16, and Biden in 20. And the reason I'm getting into politics, this is my first foray into politics, is I see a desperate need for some reason, even in the Democratic Party, to try to win some of those voices. This county, you guys are familiar with issue 1 in Ohio this past election cycle with reproductive rights.
Abortion.
That was it was a huge win for reproductive rights in Ohio. And the county that I'm running in is predominantly Republican. However, 53% voted for issue 1. And that means about 6 to 7% Republicans did so. And that's what I'm really running on in this next cycle, because I'm running against pretty staunch Republicans. No one's running against me in the primary, so I'm going to just be running against a Republican in the November general. It's an election year. It's a presidential election year. Should be a huge turnout. Turnouts are usually good for Democrats. But I just want to get your guys' thoughts on that, because my strategy I have to get another 6 to 7% of Republican voters. And I just want to know what your feelings are on how do I speak to that electorate? How do I win some of those people over?
Slowly and use really small words. That's how I'd recommend speaking.
Would drawings help?
Just
drawing.
You want to have a whiteboard. Just wheel in a whiteboard.
Just have one attached to me everywhere.
Honestly, I
Do
think
it
that
like
I think
a
the solution
Pictionary.
is. Oh, sorry, Felice.
Oh no, that's it. Go ahead.
I think talking about government corruption, like the stuff that we generally can connect on, is this idea that there's corruption in government, that dark money needs to get out.
Yes.
And I think that like that's always a good starting point. We have found in all of our conversations that a lot of times there's not a good argument against Medicare for all. And so if you can find that common ground first of like the government is corrupt, or the big pharma is corrupt. They like any sort of corruption, anything that makes them feel like they're victims. They love that. So if you can connect on something that we're victims on, I think that's always the starting place. I don't know what the issues are that the candidate you're running against, what's he going to run on?
Well, ironically, if the candidate wins the primary, which I think he will, his name is Adam Matthews. He was one of the only in the country had a local sanctuary law prohibiting abortion. I don't know if you heard about that, Felice, or I'm sorry, your name? I apologize.
That's okay. It's Jay.
Felice.
Jay. Okay. It's one of the few local ordinances that overrides any state abortion reproductive laws. So I'm running against that, and I think that's one of my main focuses. Is I've got to get the female voters, Republicans, to go in that voting booth and go ahead and choose me. Part of my campaign is building the wall. We're going to build a wall between church and state, and
That's clever. I
Love
like that.
that.
That's
So
clever.
I'm trying to turn that on its head a bit, and using that and changing and framing everything I have around, look, government overreach is too far. As a Democrat, I even believe that. But I have to be a bit careful too, because I may not get my party nomination if I go
This is
too far into this.
Well, yeah, I think you've got to, like, this is my opinion about this. I think what you want to do is separate yourself probably from like the federal election, from the presidential election. Like, it will get you a good turnout, but in these local, smaller elections, like, what you have to do is speak to the people on the issues that matter, which are, like you're saying, the issue one is huge. The Republican Party in Ohio is signaling that again, they will go against the will of the people.
Correct.
Literally, the people have spoken in Ohio about what they want. They want to codify abortion in the state constitution. And the Republican Party in Ohio is signaling no. I think, that's not what we want. I think they've gerrymandered that state within an inch of their life. So speak to that. Speak to the 85-15 gun control issue, depending on what's going on in that area. Like, when in America has there ever been an 85-15 issue like gun control? I mean,
Yes.
if you're not accepting NRA lobbying money, then you could be one of the people that's actually speaking to that issue and wants to enact to the will of the people.
Yeah.
And then outside of that, I think what you have to focus on to Republicans is say you're a local guy and you want to speak to them about their wallets, right?
Yeah.
Economics, right?
Yeah.
Talk about the economics, talk about capitalism is broken. And that's what matters to people is money. Like, that's what I think we try to talk about. And that's where the conversation's gotten away from. We're talking about who should be in what bathroom when we need to be talking about wealth is being concentrated at the top of the economy and not recirculated. And we're moving towards late stage capitalism. Don't say it in those words, but you know what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
you
Felice,
just
that's
speak to
exactly
them
it.
like a local human talking to another local human. Like, be very Andy Bashir like this man is a Democrat
Yeah.
in the reddest of red states getting reelected because he's just a man speaking to local people about local things that matters. And he detaches himself from the federal government and from Biden whenever he can. And he's just a man from Kentucky talking to other people from Kentucky. And I think he is the blueprint for how do we get Democrats elected in these deeply red areas.
Yeah, that's a great point. And again, the area I'm in is Procter and Gamble. It's the home in Cincinnati, right? Procter and Gamble, General Electric. So I do have a conservative, some well-off people in my district. I also have some very blue-collar and low-income level people in that district. And like you said, gerrymandering is on the ballot this year in Ohio. Redistricting, is also on that ballot.
Is this you're in 56? Has this been redistricted? I was trying to find. I was looking at election results from 2020 and 2022. Looks like in 2020, yours was part of Ohio 1. Is that right? And then
Yes,
it turned into 56 in 2022.
correct. And there
Which
was
looks like it was gerrymandered for sure, right?
It was.
Because it was close elections, and then it was a 20-point blowout in 2022. So you're in a gerrymandered for Republican district too.
Yeah, the last person I ran in this position as a Democrat lost by 10%. They lost roughly 29,000 and change to 19,000 and change, and that was in 2022. So it got gerrymandered. So it's a long shot for me to get there. The only traction I think I can get, like you said, is identify locally and go for that female Republican voter that's focused in on, like you said, gun control and reproductive freedom. And that's my only shot. I'm gonna need some outside money too to make it happen, and hopefully I'll be able to gain some of that. And I mean outside money. I mean money that flowed in for issue 1, not corporate money. Because I'm like yourself, Lisa. I think the much more glaring issue that we have is late stage capitalism. The covenant of between the employer and the employee has been broken.
Speaking my language.
I grew up in the 1980s. I saw Reagan dismantle the unions and made the age, I call it the age of corporations was born. And we've been in the age of corporations now since roughly 1982. So, and we're seeing
1980s Satan. Reagan dismantled our country.
Like what just happened, it was an excellent point made. Hasbro laid off 1,100 workers 4 days before Christmas, while their CEOs were receiving $6 to $8 million bonuses. That would have been unthinkable in the previous century. It would have been shameful to do that. It would be, except for existential reasons, right? But there was nothing. But the profits weren't enough. They had profits, they just weren't enough. And that beholden to shareholders and dividends is now replaced, that covenant, that broken promise, and the American dream is no more, is the American nightmare. And that's a bigger concept, though, to sell people, to get them to vote. But I'm going to share everything I feel from top to bottom, and subsidizing genocidal wars is another thing that I'm not in favor of. I'm not an isolationist by any stretch of the imagination. Geopolitics are very important to me. But at the same time, 18 to 35-year-olds, and I'm talking to them daily, they are out on this. They have checked out of the election cycle.
I think that's another place you can find common ground with Republicans, and especially as, by the way, your opponent is just a gigantic fuck. I'm reading about
Governor DeWine
He
simp. This is like
sucks.
Mike DeWine's like
does
lackey, it looks
Yeah.
like.
But I think that's
Looks
another place you
gross.
could find some common ground, especially like you said, the younger disenfranchised Republicans, the ones that the red pill community goes after. The same thing. Like people are tired of all that. When you don't know if you're ever going to be able to buy a house, and you're hearing of the billions of dollars sent overseas, I do think those two issues can bring in younger voters, but also you can find common ground across the Republican. I don't know, if you can find those the people who didn't vote for Trump. And bring them to your side with that type of messaging, and steer clear of, it sucks, but maybe the messaging has to steer clear of trans issues or LGBTQ issues. If that's not the focal point of your campaign, I think you can find that common ground. That'd be
and
amazing.
No social.
I think the message should be small government, right? Like turn the Republican talking points on their head, because what we're like with what Trump did, spent, and it wants to get government more involved than ever. And I think Democrats should start running on the message of we are small government. We don't want to be in your doctor's office. We don't, and that's what I think it should be about is Democrats need to be like, we are the party of small government.
That's an excellent point. You guys, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'm forming my campaign. I've got my treasurer. Those are important positions, like you were talking about. They can get you in hot water. So I'm trying to structure my campaign, and I'll let you guys know how this thing progresses.
Come back and give us updates. That'd be great.
I will.
I followed you.
You do? Oh, great. The opponent for Adam Matthews is Kathy Grossman. That's one of the opponents in the Republican primary. She used to be mayor of Mason, Ohio, which is another city just north of Cincinnati. She may not win, but she's got a lot of money behind her. She's got a lot. She's a staunch Christo-fascist.
Terrific. We need more of those.
Thank you guys. Keep doing
Thank
good
you.
work. I appreciate it.
Come back.
Build that wall between church and state,
Yes,
sir.
build the wall. Thanks, guys.
Hashtag build the wall. Thank you. That was kind of right up your alley, Felice. That was red meat.
I
for
really
you right
liked
there.
what he was saying. Yeah, I was feeling that.
And
I think we
it's
need to have more candidates on the people running for sure.
I agree. He seemed to know that we were done. We were right at our cutoff. So I'm gonna go.
Exactly.
I'm gonna go see a movie with my daughter for her birthday.
Cute. Happy
Thank you.
birthday to your
Felice,
daughter.
thanks for the outline that we didn't get to. Thanks for putting hours of work
was
into
great.
something.
No, it's good to know what's going on.
As always, 8:30 a.m. to noon Pacific Standard Time. You can find us here. You can find the replays on YouTube. So lucky for us, we're going to be able to go back and see what was said in that debate. I won't be re-listening to it because I hate the sound of my own voice. So if you guys want to go back and listen to that, it's on YouTube. It'll be up in a few hours. Thanks to Whisper for getting that done. He gets all of our content up on YouTube. He edits it. So special thanks to Whisper. And
You can find
Mods,
Jade
great-
later on Mother of Dragons Live.
Yeah, you can find
Streaming
me
at
later
7
on.
people.
after I take a few rips, I'll be on with MOD, probably just getting screamed at by Republicans. No, it's my daughter's
Regulating his
birthday. I won't be
emotions.
on later.
Okay, guys. Thanks so much. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you.